Story 1. My cheating wife panicked and begged for forgiveness, but she will face the consequences she deserves. I discovered my soon-to-be ex-wife, for short STBXW, cheating about 7 months ago. I went through all the heartache, the denial, the pain, the pick-me attempts. I was seriously depressed for a long while. I never confronted her, but I was a total mess. She must have known I knew. She just didn't care, I guess, or at least I assumed that. About 2 to 3 months ago, I was just done with it all. Done with her, done with the marriage. I just didn't care anymore. I completely checked out of the relationship and started preparing for divorce and my new life to come. I avoided my wife as much as possible. I tried to stay out of the house when she was home. I would not engage in conversation. When she asked me a question, I would only answer yes, no, or maybe, or I don't know. I even left the divorce lawyer's bills out in the open. She must have known I was checked out and preparing to divorce. Kids even asked me about it. Even they could see what was going on. I even did the "though we both love you" speech. It's not your fault. Sometimes grown-ups can't be together anymore, etc. My wife was actually in the room and must have heard me talk to the kids. She didn't comment or object. I took her silence as consent. Anyways, a few days ago, I met a girl I used to know in school before I ever met my wife. We always had this tension between us, some kind of chemistry. We would always flirt and be touchy, but we never actually did anything about it. Let's call her Monica, because I think she looks like Monica Bellucci. Monica and her family moved away before I found the guts to actually do anything about it. I regretted that for a long time, but I was young, shy, and stupid. I haven't been thinking about Monica for a long time. Actually, I haven't seen her for years, but as soon as we met, the tension between us was palpable, even more than I remember, and communication was effortless. She actually asked me out. I explained the situation to her with my STBXW. I told her I wanted to be officially separated before I started dating. I wasn't going to cheat. Monica respected that. She gave me her number and told me to give her a call as soon as I was done doing what I had to do. She told me she never married and she was really excited to get to know me again. I was even more excited. The encounter motivated me to finally confront my wife and officially get separation and divorce going. I was really happy when I went home and sat down waiting for my wife. I was actually grinning like a lunatic when I asked her to sit down and told her that we had to talk. I told her I've known about her cheating for a long time. I told her I assumed that she knew I knew, especially since I checked out of our relationship for the last 3-ish months. She didn't seem to mind that I no longer cared, so I told her I want to start dating and get on with my life. I concluded my speech with, "All taken into consideration, it's time for us to get divorced, don't you agree?" Her reaction was totally not what I expected. She started crying. Not just regular crying either, like a desperate, soul-breaking noise. I have never heard anything like it. She was blabbering excuses, asking for second chances, that the affair didn't mean anything. We could fix this if we try counseling, etc. I was a bit shocked. I thought she would be happy. I told her she could go and be with this guy without guilt. He is obviously more important to her than her family. If he wasn't, why go with him in the first place? She must have known this would destroy us. She can't possibly be that stupid. Can she? I told her if she believed we needed to fix our family or our marriage, the time to do that would have been 7 months ago, before she had the affair. Now it's too late. It's broken beyond repair. I didn't think we had any problems in our marriage. She didn't talk to me, and I am not a mind reader, so whatever it was, I had no way of fixing it. Since she started this affair with the other guy, she obviously thought something was wrong or missing. Something that was so wrong that it couldn't be solved by talking to me. Something had to be so lacking or so wrong that she was okay with having our children grow up in a broken home from here on in. If not, why do it? I clearly and calmly explained that there is no way for her to undo seeing this guy for the last 7 months, and there is no way to undo the pain and suffering she caused me. The pain she caused that made me arrive at this point of basically being indifferent. Or actually, I kind of hate her guts. I'm simply being civil for the sake of being able to co-parent our children in the future. I told her I didn't believe she ever cared about me. No person that cared even a little for someone else would put them through this kind of pain. They would not betray them in such a way that she had done. Her telling me that she loves me has no meaning or credibility, because her actions exclusively prove otherwise. She became completely incoherent at this point. I could not make heads or tails of anything she said. It's just a jumbled mess. In the end, I had to call her sister because honestly I wasn't going to take care of her. Her sister showed up and, after I explained what was going on, she took her away. I felt tremendous relief when they were gone. I could finally breathe for the first time in 7 months. I don't know what I'm looking for here. She must have known this was going to happen. She must have wanted it. She can't possibly be that stupid that she thinks this behavior, these choices she made, would result in anything other than divorce and a broken family. She is beautiful. She is smart. Our marriage was great up until she started her affair. I have accepted that life changes. I've moved past it. Now she is pretending like she loves me, that she wants us to remain married in a family. What could possibly be her motivation to have this major drama at this point? What could she gain? I mean, she couldn't possibly expect us to try to reconcile at this point, could she? It must be some kind of ploy. I just can't figure out WTF it is. I have lots of evidence of her cheating. I live in a European country, and this would mean no alimony or anything for her. Could that be it? Is she afraid I will out her? Could that be it? She wants me to feel sympathy so I don't tell people about what she did. Her AP is married, so maybe she is scared I will tell his wife. I just can't get my head around it. Anyway, I just had to get this out of my head. I was hoping it would make more sense typed out, but no. I am just as confused now as when I started this rant. Update. My cheating STBXW confuses the hell out of me. So, first of all, thank you to everyone. It's been overwhelming in many ways. I haven't had a chance to answer everyone, but I have tried to read everything. I posted 3 days after the conversation with my STBXW and I had hardly slept. Actually, I passed out reading messages on my computer. When I woke up the next day, I had an interesting keyboard pattern on my face and a much clearer mind. I decided to make some lists for and against on the key points. I put a bunch of papers on the wall. I made a headline on each of them: Our Kids, How to Behave When Meeting the Wife, My Marriage, Monica, Questions to Ask My Wife, etc. The final document is too big to retype here, so I will just cover some of the main points. My goal was trying to figure out what core principles I wanted in place and what are the most important things that I wanted to focus on. Then I went through each of those and evaluated whether or not I would actually be able to achieve anything meaningful from it, and what would be a meaningful result in the case I got anywhere. As for the kids, they are my #1 priority. I will increase my efforts to help them deal with this. More individual counseling, family counseling. I will arrange trips and spend more quality time together and make new memories. I will also involve the rest of the family on my side to drown them in love and help them through this. I will also talk to their teachers, coaches, etc. I want to make sure their support system is immediate and everywhere. I got an STI test and I've also booked DNA testing of the kids. Just thinking they might not be mine makes me very uncomfortable, but I have to make sure for their sake. If they're not mine, maybe there is some medical history they need to know about. What if they want to reach out to the real father when they get older? How will they see me if I don't act now to make sure? Hopefully they are mine, and I will be stressed until I get it confirmed one way or the other. After talking alone to their therapists first, they joined us, and we explained everything carefully and let them ask as many questions as they wanted. I repeated over and over and over again that they could come to me with anything. I am their dad. I love them more than anything, and I will always be there for them. Whatever they need, no matter what. As for my marriage, I came to the conclusion that I can never trust my wife again. Without trust, it's not possible to have a relationship. I also came to the conclusion that I do not love my wife. I don't love the person she has become. My love for her used a very big part of me, but she killed that with the affair. Totally changed my perception of her. Maybe I could learn to love her again, but to be able to do that, I would have to want that, and TBH, I don't want to. Better to end it and get on with our lives. I no longer want this marriage. I don't want our relationship. I don't want her. The part of me that loved her. The part of me that used to feel endless joy and happiness when thinking about her. that now fills me with dread and memories of pain. Actually, any thought of association with her causes me serious discomfort at the moment. Divorce is inevitable, I think, and I want to get it done as soon as possible. As for Monica, I talked a lot to her. I had some concerns based on the feedback I had here on Reddit. Maybe it wasn't such a good idea to jump into a new relationship. I also didn't want to bring her into my mess, and let's face it, my life is a total mess at the moment. She disagreed. She said life is messy. Might as well see how we deal with that together while dating. I found out why she never married. She was engaged, actually. Her fiancé died unexpectedly in a work accident almost 5 years ago. This devastated her, and even though she had gone on a few dates since, she had not been able to form a connection with anyone. From her perspective, life is short, and you have to take risks whenever a true opportunity presents itself. I explained how I don't want to start anything until after the divorce is official. I don't want to cheat while I'm technically married. She agrees and respects that. I also talked about how it could be perceived if we all of a sudden were an item out in the open for everyone to see. It would be easy to try to frame her as the homewrecker. I don't want that. She agreed, and we will wait a little bit after it's official until we do anything. I feel incredibly drawn to Monica. This phone call is a borderline emotional affair in my mind, so I will not contact her again until I am done with legal separation. We agreed that I would get my affairs in order and contact her when I was ready, and we would see what we do then. When it came to planning the meeting with my wife, I wrote down some principles on who I want to be. I would make every effort in my meeting with her to try to be that man, the man I used to be before all this. I decided I needed to stay calm. I would make every effort not to be cruel. I would keep in mind that the purpose of this conversation was to move on with our life. The purpose was to be able to co-parent as good as possible for our kids. Still, I prepared a list of questions to try to understand her thinking to have this affair, and also what she was thinking about moving forward. I was not going to be deceitful. I was not going to give her false hope that there was a chance to reconcile just to get a postnup or some benefit in divorce. I have decided to act as fairly as possible. I will divide all assets with her equally. We will have 50-50 custody. Even though she has acted terribly towards me, I will not use her as a role model. I will act so I can stand by my actions today, tomorrow, and 20 years from now. I hate her for what she did to me, what she did to us, to our children, but I love the memories of the good times we had together while it lasted, and I love our children that we created and raised together. I will try to remember her in this light moving forward, not her cheating. I can't carry hate in my heart, so at some point, I need to forgive her so I can move on. Up until the point she cheated, I think we had a very good marriage. We would make love every day. We spent a lot of quality time together. We hardly ever argued. We sacrificed for each other willingly. I was actually very open with her up until I discovered her infidelity. I believe she was open with me as well, but now her action shows this not to be the case. So Saturday came and I went to see her. Her sister had warned me that she was not in good shape. She was not wrong. My STBXW looked absolutely horrible. Bloodshot eyes, swollen face, unkempt hair. She looked many sizes smaller than I remember, like she had imploded into herself. I doubt she has slept or eaten much this week. We all sat down, and my wife was shaking almost uncontrollably. I felt surprisingly calm. I felt for her obvious pain, but not as a loving spouse. I felt for her pain like I would feel for an actor in a movie I was engaged in. I don't know how to explain the feeling, really. It confirmed that I probably don't love her anymore. I just sat there and waited for her to collect herself enough to speak. She started several times but would break down crying. Watching her, it's clear it's not an act. I've seen her cry many times before, but never like this. I guess people can fake cry, but I doubt anyone can fake the look of crying nonstop for a week, mixed with soul-torturing sobs and giant snot bubbles. When she finally started talking, it was like a dam burst. She apologized every second word. Surprisingly, she didn't try to excuse herself or shift the blame to me. Her sister cried as well and would from time to time berate her. It also became clear that her sister had warned her this would happen. Apparently, it's how her sister lost her fiancé a year back. I didn't know that, Her sister's cheating gave my wife a midlife crisis of sorts. She started to think about cheating a lot. In the end, it seems she did this because she got infatuated/a crush on the guy and couldn't help herself. She never believed I would find out or that anyone would get hurt. It was a completely selfish thing. She was apparently very happy in our marriage. She convinced herself that she deserved this fling and that I probably supported her choice if I knew how happy she was at the time. She convinced herself that this affair would pass and we would all go back to living happy family lives ever after. She had no idea I had found out, and only when I started to check out did she start to question what was going on. I learned she broke up with the AP about 1.5 months ago. The buzz had started to wear off. She gave me her phone to check and she had blocked him. When I unblocked him, messages dating back 1.5 months started pouring in. She had been trying to re-engage me in our marriage, but I hadn't shown any interest of having anything to do with her. Up until I sat her down, she was convinced that we would be able to find a way back together and that we would end up stronger than ever. When she looked into my eyes when I confronted her, she understood that this was probably the end of the line. The reality of it all hit her like a ton of bricks. I tried asking her some questions, primarily about what it was in her mind that gave her the right to do this to us, to our children. Basically, it's nothing but selfishness on her part. I realize, like so many of you pointed out, I will never get the answers that I'm looking for because they don't exist. There is no acceptable reason for cheating. Therefore, I will never get an acceptable answer. I did, however, get closure in a weird way. I got to explain to her how badly she had hurt me, the incredible pain she had caused. I got her to accept that it's her fault that our marriage is broken and that our children will grow up in a broken home. This gave me a strange feeling of peace. She had been reading everything she could about fixing a broken marriage after infidelity. She had a complete timeline and detailed confession, signed and everything, ready for me. I haven't read it, I just gave it to my lawyer. She begged and begged and begged for a second chance. She would do anything, she said. I told her I didn't believe her. In fact, I didn't believe anything she said. I just don't trust her. She asked me what she could do to fix it. I told her. She broke it. If she doesn't know how can she expect me to present her with a solution? I asked her if she was in my shoes, what would she answer to that? If anything, these types of questions went back and forth for a while. In the end, she conceded that had the roles been reversed, she probably wouldn't forgive this either. I told her I had gotten an STI test and that I would get a DNA test for the kids. She completely broke down for about 20 minutes when she heard this. She insisted that this was the only time she had ever cheated or done anything out of line. Again, after some back and forth, she conceded that I had no reason to believe her, and if she was in my shoes, she would probably do the same. I asked her if AP's wife knew. She didn't know. She conceded that she deserved to know. I asked her if she should tell her or should I. She asked me if I would consider reconciling or marriage counseling if she told her. I told her no, but I said it would help her regain a tiny bit of respect in my eyes. She promised to tell the AP's wife and everybody else. She would go to HR as well and confess everything. Again, I told her I don't really believe her. She swore she would never be with anyone else and that she would never give up on getting back with me, even if it took the rest of her life. I didn't believe her, but I didn't say anything. It was getting redundant at this point. She offered me a one-sided open marriage, access to all her communication, 24/7 availability. I told her that I had talked to Monica and that I am waiting because I don't want to cheat. I don't want to be in an open relationship. It would hurt her if we did that, and I don't want to hurt other people like she hurt me. I don't want to be her jailer either. Constantly snooping on her and being suspicious isn't grounds for a healthy relationship. I am not interested in intimacy without a deeper connection either. Sex for the sake of mechanical sex has no value for me. If I need mechanical release, I can fix that on my own. I don't need a partner for that. At this point, we were all exhausted. We had been going at it for over 5 hours, and my wife had been crying on a scale from bad to absolutely horrifying almost the entire time. We weren't going to get any further on this. It was done. I told her very clearly that the love I used to have for her had died. I didn't recognize the person she had become anymore. Our family had died by her hand, and that I would go through with divorce. I told her she could not undo what she has done. The only way to avoid this result would have been to not start the affair 7 months ago. I didn't want our marriage back. I didn't want her back. I did not want more pain. I suggested we go no contact for a while to get some distance and perspective. I told her I already filed and that my mind was made up. We could start family therapy to co-parent, but beyond that, I don't even want to see her. This was incredibly painful to tell her. She was crying hard while mumbling, "No, no, 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 please no, please no." When I got up to leave, she got a massive, almost explosive nosebleed. She started to reach for me, but she passed out. I managed to catch her before she hit the floor. I drove her and her sister to the ER and stayed until I learned she would be okay. Last night and today, STBXW has been telling everyone what she has done. The AP's wife called me this morning to get confirmation that what my wife had told her was true. I sent her copies of some of the evidence. I just learned she kicked her husband out. She wants to meet and look at more of the evidence. She has been suspecting for a long time, but hasn't had anything solid. I suggested we sit down for dinner tomorrow. She had a need to talk and asked if we could talk on the phone. I don't know if I can take that on right now. I told her, maybe later. I freely admit I am feeling like a piece of shit. I haven't been able to sleep. Cracks are forming in my resolve. I know I must stay strong, but it's very hard. Why do I feel so guilty? Why do I feel responsible to try to fix this? We may be able to fool ourselves for a while, but it will most likely not work long term. Some of her friends and relatives have been calling me up and cursing me out. They think I should give her a second chance. But in my mind, I am thinking, why drag out the pain? Better to get it over with so we can start to heal and build new lives. So that's it. Nothing spectacular. No revenge. No resolve. No peace. No happy ending. Just more pain for all of us. My mind is in a very dark place right now. I don't know what to do, to be honest. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Exposed my stepsister for stealing my fiancé. Now her marriage is over and my parents cut me off. I, 27F, got married 2 weeks ago. I planned the entire thing myself and received a lot of praise from my guests about how beautiful and perfect everything looked, which was nice. My stepsister, 26F, couldn't stand it, though, and had been telling everyone that I stole my ideas from her. She's always been jealous of me, so I wasn't surprised by this in the slightest, but I did feel really annoyed by it. Some family members of mine have a big mouth and started asking me if I really had stolen my ideas from my stepsister, which was really unfair since I hadn't done anything of the sort. My stepsister has a history of lying about me to make herself look better, and I'd had enough of it, honestly. My mother married her father when we were 16, and we've hated each other's guts ever since. I tried to be her friend at first, but she'd never accepted it and always tried to turn everything into a competition, which got under my skin. One time, she spread a rumor about me in high school that I used to hit on her boyfriend after I was picked at the cheerleading tryouts and she wasn't, just to get back at me. That led to almost a month of all the girls hating me and making fun of me, except for a few. That's the kind of person my stepsister is. For so long, I'd always let things slide, since I knew that she was doing it just to get on my nerves, and if I reacted badly, then she'd win. But this time around, I couldn't just let it go because I'd spent weeks and weeks planning my wedding. She couldn't just swoop in and discredit me after all that I'd done to make my wedding as beautiful as possible. I know it was petty, but as soon as I got to know that she'd been telling people that I stole her ideas, I decided to call her up and give her a piece of my mind. I told her that she needed to stop saying it, since even though she knew that it wasn't true, she laughed in my face, called me a sore loser and hung up. So, I decided to expose her and her husband as the cheaters and liars that they really were to the rest of our family. For context, her current husband, 30M, used to be my boyfriend when I was 23. I used to live with my parents and stepsister because I was saving money to move out eventually. That's when I met my ex-boyfriend at work, and I fell in love almost instantly. However, he wanted our relationship to be top secret and didn't even allow me to tell my friends out of work, which, in hindsight, should have raised some red flags. After just 2 months of dating, I decided to bring him home to meet my parents, and obviously my stepsister met him as well. I didn't notice it at the time, but she'd been overly flirtatious and cute around him. But I'd never even imagined that my ex would stab me in the back and cheat on me with her. I guess that's around the time that they started texting each other behind my back. But I was blissfully unaware of the sparks between them and continued to date him and fall for him even more. After almost a year of dating, I decided that I wanted to marry him and I proposed to him. It was unorthodox, but I loved him so much that I just couldn't wait around for him to propose to me and took it upon myself. So I took him out for a fancy dinner at a high-end restaurant and all of that, but at the end of the night when I finally did pop the question, he said that he needed time to think about it. I wish he'd just broken up with me right then and there, but he dragged our relationship on for 3 more months instead, all the while cheating on me with my stepsister. I was upset that he'd rejected my first proposal, but I still stayed with him, hoping that I'd eventually be able to change his mind. We finally broke up when, 3 months after my proposal, he confessed to me that he was in love with my stepsister and wanted to be with her instead. And as if that wasn't enough, he told me that she was 3 months pregnant, so she'd start showing in a couple of weeks, which is why they decided to get married at the earliest as well. I was hysterical and got into a huge fight with my stepsister, but our parents intervened and forbade me from speaking about this, as they were afraid of the family's image being ruined by the scandal, as my stepdad was reasonably popular. I had no option but to obey them, since I was living with them at that point. They had a small and simple wedding ceremony in our backyard with a few close friends and family members, and then my stepsister moved in with my ex. I didn't attend the wedding, obviously, and spent the entire week leading up to the wedding in a cheap motel room, doing nothing but drinking and eating a few weeks after the wedding. I decided that I'd saved up enough money to be able to rent a place of my own and moved out as well, but that did nothing for my mental health and I went into a deep depression. I would just eat, drink, and sleep all day, and I'd even quit my job since I just couldn't bring myself to get out of bed anymore. However, I still did have a friend who was looking out for me, and that was my current husband. He and I had been close friends since high school, but I'd never seen him as a romantic figure because he was mostly known for being the class clown. For several weeks after the wedding, I skipped every party hosted by my friends and refused to respond to any calls or texts. I thought they'd forget about me since they were all busy with their own lives. But he didn't. He was the only one who bothered to find out where I lived from my parents and showed up at my house. He took care of me for the next few weeks, even though I was mean and distant. He never left my side even for a second in those crucial few weeks and helped me get back on my feet. Hell, he even paid the bills for me since I didn't have any money after I quit my job. I literally owe my life to my husband, and I'm going to be eternally grateful for what he did. Anyway, after a few weeks, I did end up telling him all about what had happened with my ex and my stepsister, and he consoled me. Then we never formally got together. He simply moved in with me after a while, and that was that. We never felt the need to address it, and even today we joke that he never even asked me out, but whatever, that was what had happened. And I thought that it was about time that the rest of the family also found out about what had actually happened. I did discuss my plan to expose them with my husband first, though, and he was very supportive of it. He told me that after everything my stepsister and my ex had put me through, it was totally reasonable for me to want to tell everyone the truth. And so, a couple of days ago, I invited my entire family over to my house. I was extra careful to invite my stepsister in the sweetest voice so that she wouldn't suspect anything, and she totally fell for it as well. After everyone had arrived at my house, I addressed first the things that my stepsister had been saying about me stealing her wedding ideas. I reminded her that she'd never even had a proper wedding, given the circumstances which she'd gotten married under. Some people laughed awkwardly, some looked uncomfortable, and some were plain confused, but I went on. I reminded her that since she's been accusing me of stealing her wedding ideas and making such a huge deal out of it, I should probably make an even bigger deal of what she did to me, since she actually stole my husband. That earned a few gasps and shocked expressions from my guests, especially my parents and ex-boyfriend, who went red. I explained the entire story to the guests, who were by now looking as if they'd been served a treat on a silver platter, since this would be gossip fuel for a good year. After I was done with the story, there was a stunned silence where nobody knew what to say for a good 1 minute. However, after that, my stepsister got up and literally ran out of the house, with her husband rushing behind her. Gradually, all the guests also left in silence. The last people to leave were my parents, who looked furious and even had the audacity to demand that I apologize to my stepsister for humiliating her in front of so many people. I told them I was going to do no such thing, since she tried to ruin my life more than once, and she totally deserved this. My husband also told them that they had no right to tell me to apologize when they never told my stepsister to apologize to me, especially given the fact that what she'd done was way worse than what I'd done. He also told them off for being terrible parents who never even bothered to check up on me after I got cheated on. This led to an argument between them, and so I just told them to get out of my house if they were going to be disrespectful towards me and my husband, and that was almost 4 days ago. I haven't spoken to any of them since. I know for a fact that the rest of my family isn't speaking to my stepsister anymore, and she's been cut off by everyone. She's miserable since she's a social butterfly and can't stand the fact that nobody's talking to her anymore. A few hours ago, I received a text from my mom saying that she hoped I was happy now that I'd ruined my stepsister's life, since that's what I'd wanted all along. I mean, I'm okay with whatever is happening to my stepsister, since that's totally justified in my opinion, but my mother's accusation stings since I'd thought that at least now after all these years she'd finally see my side and have my back. Now I'm feeling like a jerk in this situation. I don't know, it sucks to be painted as the bad guy. So, am I the jerk for exposing my stepsister in front of my entire family? Update 1. My mother is still mad at me for doing what I did, and is blaming me for ruining her daughter's life. I'm not even kidding. She's using these exact words to make me feel guilty. She's been texting me for a few days demanding that I tell the rest of the family that I made all of it up just to get back at my stepsister because I was jealous. She's also told me that my stepsister and her husband are very upset with me because of what I did and are considering cutting me off, which makes no sense because we already don't speak except in public. We've never once reached out to each other unless we're at a family event where we have to be civil to each other. In fact, the only reason she was even invited to my wedding was because my mother had forced me to invite her because it would look weird otherwise. I don't know why exactly my mother thinks that I owe her an apology at all, but I've decided that I'm going to ignore all of it. I was quite upset for a few days that my own mother was taking my stepsister's side, but honestly, I'm used to it by now. I've told my husband about what's been happening, and he thinks that the best thing to do right now would be to just ignore her and let things go. And that's what I'm doing. I'm done with them. Update 2. So, 2 days have passed since the last update, and after posting that, I've decided to block all of them. Only then did I realize how much this had been weighing on me, and I felt such relief when I finally cut them out of my life. I can't even believe that for so long my mother forced me to pretend to be on good terms with my stepsister just so that people wouldn't judge them for failing as parents. They're the ones who were unable to make my stepsister a decent person, and yet somehow I was the one who had to suffer because of that. But yeah, anyway, I blocked them all and I thought that would be the end of it. However, last night my mother came over, and she seemed really disappointed. I didn't have anything to say to her very honestly, and after almost 5 minutes of awkward silence, she started talking to me about how my actions had negatively impacted the family. I cut her off, saying that there was no family as such, at least for me. After she married my stepdad, it became very clear with time that she preferred my stepsister over me, and everything that she did was forgiven, but the same rules didn't apply to me at all. I told her how much she'd hurt me over the years and that I wasn't going to apologize or put up an act anymore. I was just done. She got really upset after my rant and tried to explain to me that the reason she distanced herself from me after her separation was because I reminded her too much of my dad, which wasn't fair to me in the least because, of course, I would remind her of my dad. But that was no reason for her to start treating me as if I was just my father's daughter and not hers, too. I told her that while I would try to understand her side of the story, I just couldn't forgive her that easily and needed time. But no matter what my equation with my mother was, I wasn't going to apologize to my stepsister or pretend to be sorry for what I did, and I made it known to her as well. She left looking really morose and disappointed, but that couldn't be helped. A day has passed since our last conversation, and while I have unblocked her, we haven't yet spoken. Update 3. 1 week has passed since my last conversation with my mother, and she hasn't reached out again since, so I'm guessing she's not sorry, which is fine by me. Honestly, I've come to terms with the fact that she prefers my stepsister, and that's just how it is. Nothing I say or do is going to change it anymore. But my stepsister hasn't moved on from what I did yet and has taken to badmouthing me to all our relatives yet again. She's been telling everyone that her husband cheated on me only because I was a toxic psycho, and he found her company peaceful. Apparently, she's told people that I used to emotionally manipulate my ex into staying with me every time he tried to break up, which is part of the reason that he ended up cheating on me. Another reason was that I was pushing him to get married to me even though he told me that he wasn't ready yet, which scared him. Now, obviously, not one word of any of that is true, but my relatives are now divided about whom they should believe since my stepsister, unlike me, is a very convincing liar. One of my cousins has been keeping me updated with whatever lies she's been spreading about me, and it's honestly just outrageous that she's trying to make me out to be the liar here when we all know what kind of person she is. My mother is not going to intervene at all, that's something I'm sure of, and neither am I going to ask her to, because she's just going to refuse to say anything to her favorite daughter anyway. But I'm not going to let this one slide either, because if she can go so low, then I can definitely go lower. I've blocked her on all social media, but thankfully I know a lot of her coworkers and friends, and I'm going to make sure that everyone gets to know what kind of person my darling stepsister is. It's petty and cruel, and I'm glad I can finally stop pretending that I care about her or her feelings since she's never cared about mine. And even my husband feels that whatever I'm doing, no matter how petty and mean it seems, all comes from a place of justified anger. I was forced to suppress my anger and resentment towards my stepsister for so long that it was bound to bubble up and come out in destructive ways sometime or the other. And he thinks that it's better now than never since she's the one who's been pushing and pushing me for a reaction for a long time anyway. So, I've decided that I'm going to expose what she did to me to every single person who knows her this time, and it certainly won't be pretty. Update 4. So I did it. I posted everything that my stepsister had done to me with proof, since I did have a few screenshots of texts between me and my ex, and even some taunting texts that my stepsister had sent to me over the years to show that I wasn't lying. I posted it yesterday, and my phone has been totally blowing up with notifications because of the sheer number of people who have been texting me. To my surprise, it wasn't just my relatives who reached out to me, but also my stepsister's coworkers and some of her acquaintances had sent me texts detailing their own bad experiences with my stepsister. Apparently, she's quite the office flirt and flirts with every guy regardless of whether they're married or not. And as if that wasn't messed up enough, she also treats other women like absolute crap and is always saying mean things about her so-called friends behind their backs. So far, I've learned that she's a flirt, a gossip, and a backstabber, and the list just keeps growing. My stepsister is furious that I went public with this information and has been trying to get through to me and has made several different accounts to harass me into taking my post down. But she doesn't scare me in the slightest, so the post is still up. I'm sure she's reporting the post as well, so maybe Facebook will take it down eventually, but I for sure won't be deleting it. My mother is also mad at me and has made it a point to tell me that while she'd expected me to deal with this like a mature and grown woman, I'd let her down and acted like a complete fool. She also told me that my stepdad was very pissed off about the kind of stunts I've been pulling off since it was affecting his reputation among his friends as well. So he wanted me to publicly apologize to everyone and delete my posts. And if I didn't do that, they'd be forced to cut me out of their lives as well, and that would mean my entire inheritance would go to my stepsister. It's just funny that they think threatening to cut me off is going to be effective in any way whatsoever since I'm the one who blocked them first, so obviously I don't care whether or not my stepdad wants me in his life. I'll be a little disappointed about my mother cutting me off, but like I said, I've accepted that she doesn't love me as much as she adores her stepdaughter, and I'm okay with it. As for the inheritance, I earn well enough to support myself and so does my husband, so it's not like we're worried about the money. Moreover, when my dad passed away a few years ago, he left me with way more money than my stepdad, so I'm not particularly worried about losing out on the inheritance, quite honestly. Update 5. 2 days since I posted, and holy crap, that one post ended up opening up Pandora's box. First off, my parents obviously cut me off. When I told my mother that I wasn't going to take that post down, she tried to convince me that losing my relationship with my parents wasn't worth it, and that taking revenge on my stepsister shouldn't be my sole motive. I reminded her that I hardly even had a relationship with them anymore, so I was okay with losing whatever little I had if that meant I could get back at that evil demon, which led to a fight and ended with her blocking me everywhere like I'd done to her first. Stung, but whatever. And then yesterday, I got to know from my other relatives that my stepsister and her husband were headed for divorce. I was very confused as to what exactly had changed in a night, and after some digging, I found out through my cousin that apparently one of her male coworkers who'd seen my post had decided to actually text her husband. The coworker had sent him multiple screenshots of my stepsister trying to flirt with him, and since he was already married, he was pretty uncomfortable, obviously. This didn't go down well with my stepsister's husband. They got into a huge fight and decided to end their marriage. He's filed for divorce and single custody of their son, which is sad for the kid, but honestly, I'm happy that they're both finally being punished for whatever they'd put me through. I've obviously cut myself off from the situation entirely, and I guess my stepsister has learned her lesson now since she's kept her mouth shut after that post. It's crazy how one decision of mine to expose my stepsister ended up ruining her marriage and quite possibly her relationship with her son as well, but I don't feel guilty about it at all. She brought this all on to herself. From what I know, she's moved back in with my parents because she's facing flack at work as well because of her behavior, so she might even have to quit her job too pretty soon. I'm relieved that I hopefully won't have to deal with her and her craziness for the foreseeable future. And just to ensure that I'm as far away from her as possible physically as well, my husband and I have decided to leave for our honeymoon this week itself. We're going to go on a Europe tour, and I'm super excited for what's in store for us. I'm going to put all this dramatic nonsense about my stepsister, my parents, and my family out of my head for the next few weeks and try to enjoy my life to the fullest. And hopefully when I come back, I'll be a better and more free person with less emotional baggage. Truth be told, now that I'm finally done with my family, I feel a lot less bogged down already. Now on to the next story. Story 3. 2 months ago, my wife of 5 years cheated on me, and despite her efforts to make things right, I can't shake the feeling that our marriage is broken. My wife cheated on me 2 months ago. She went out drinking with her friends, which happens rarely, despite asking her several times to stay home with me that night and spend time with our 2-year-old son. Apparently, at the bar, this dude bought her several drinks, and she got drunk as hell, which was extremely atypical of her. Her friends had a bad feeling about this and tried to bring her home, but she insisted she would take a cab, and her friends eventually left her alone with the guy. Well, as it turns out, she went home with him. The whole time, I was blowing up her phone, dozens of texts and calls, and I kept asking her friends where she was, but I got no answer from them. I had never been so worried in my life, holy shit. Then she comes back at 3 a.m., reeking of alcohol and covered in tears. She confessed to everything right at the door, every single detail. She didn't even know this asshole's name, yet liked him enough to go to his house and sleep with him on his bed. She said as soon as her head cleared up, she broke down in tears over what she just did and took a cab home. Now me, I was enraged but didn't want to say or do anything since I knew I would probably go to jail if I did. I calmly told her to shower and go to sleep. Then I took off my wedding ring and got the shit out of the house. I just went around driving for a bit, screaming in the car, etc. Meanwhile, she's blowing up my phone with tons of messages and voicemails apologizing and begging me to come back. I come back a few hours later, and she's awake, still sobbing and mumbling. I asked her what we would do now, and she swore to do anything and everything to regain my trust. I was of mind to divorce immediately, but I loved my wife and connected with her more strongly than with anyone else. I didn't forgive her yet, but gave her a chance to try. She was ecstatic, but still in tears, saying she doesn't deserve it but will make the most of it. And I guess she's been true to her word. She doesn't go out to bars anymore without me. She gave me complete access to all of her stuff. She only drinks when I'm there, and she has been giving 200% to please me, cooking all my favorite meals, buying me tons of gifts, continuously apologizing, doing more housework to give me more free time, even writing poems asking for my forgiveness. She even confessed what she had done to her friends, who have been avoiding her more and more out of disgust for what she did to me. She also told her parents what she did on her own accord and explained that she was raised better than that and is trying to save her marriage. Not once did she try to blame the cheating on me or remove any responsibility from herself. She didn't try to justify or rationalize what she had done because she knew there was nothing bad about our relationship she could go off of. She accepted full blame and owned up to her actions. She said she's willing to do whatever it takes for as long as it takes to save our marriage. She still cries from time to time out of remorse, like before bed, during showers, sometimes just while cooking. This sounds like the perfect post-cheating course of action. I know she is doing everything flawlessly. Despite this, I just can't get the image out of my head. Every time she tries to be intimate, I think of her and him, clam up, and then push her away. Not violently. Since that night, we haven't so much as hugged. She has tried to kiss me before, but like usual, I just distance myself. I've been sleeping in the guest bedroom while she begs me to come to her and then cries herself to sleep every night. I know that she's truly and genuinely sorry, that her remorse is real. These aren't crocodile tears that most cheaters cry when they get caught. She did everything right. She confessed to me immediately, changed her habits, and did everything I asked. She sometimes asks me if I've forgiven her yet, and I always say, not yet. I mentioned possibly divorcing to her a few weeks ago, and she broke down saying she will never love another man, will never allow another man to raise our child, that I mean everything to her, and her whole world would just shatter into pieces if she lost me. I think out of all the people who have ever cheated and want to regain the trust of their partner, my wife has done the best. Despite this, I just can't forget about what she did. I wake up in the morning, and the first thing I think of is her in his bed with him. I have trouble sleeping now since the thought of them having sex keeps me up. I feel nauseous and numb all the time. The singular thought, some other guy effed my wife, is stuck in my mind all day. I don't want this to keep happening, but I can't find any way to strike it from my mind. Every so often, I feel like unleashing all my anger on her, calling her all the names in the book, telling her I hate her. Lately, I find myself on a local pier, just staring out into the ocean for hours at a time. I go there to just stop thinking about what she did and escape for a while. Then when I go home, the misery starts again. I don't know if I love my wife anymore. At times, I feel such a strong hatred for her that I almost vomit knowing that I married her. Sometimes I see her as she was before the cheating, and in those moments I can love her again. They don't last longer than a few seconds, though. I feel like I'm the bad guy for wanting a divorce. She has been doing everything correctly since the infidelity, so I should forgive her, right? That's what most people would probably do, I guess. But I can't stop thinking about her and the other guy. I know that as long as I keep thinking about them, this marriage won't last. Our anniversary is in 9 days. This keeps triggering memories of our relationship, the wedding, the birth of our son, trips we took, happy days, etc. Now it just hurts, a really heavy pain in my chest and throat, to think of them. We've been together since high school, fully committed and faithful. I just can't grasp how she could do this to me, how she could make a series of bad decisions one after the other to end up cheating. My mouth feels dry whenever I think of how that night must have gone. How she must have kissed him, walked into his home, to his bedroom, laid down on his bed, took off her clothes, whatever. A lot of the time, I feel like killing myself or killing her or killing the other guy. I fantasize about cheating on her to make things even. Sometimes I imagine just hitting her over and over, but I would never do that. I never laid a finger on my wife. I don't hurt people. I've never had violent or angry thoughts like this before. My wife's adultery effed with my head more than should be possible. I don't feel like the same person anymore. I feel hollow all the time. I'm here to ask, is there any way I can bring myself to forgive her? Or should I just divorce her and move on? Find a woman who won't cheat on me? I want my son to grow up with the belief that cheating is totally unacceptable. I feel like if I stay with my wife, my son will learn that it's okay to forgive cheating, and I don't want him to ever stay with a woman who cheated on him. At the same time, I keep living every day hoping I might have an epiphany that I can truly forgive her and love her again. Seems like a hopeless fantasy, though. Please help me. I don't know what to do. I'm sick of feeling sick. Update 1. I figured out what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk to her about possibly making it even somehow. I'll see what she says, and depending on her response, I might try to reconcile or divorce without a second thought. Also, I'm going to ask her for the full truth about this guy. I find it weird that she remembers he's divorced, 33, and not in shape but can't remember his name. Never mind, this is a bad idea. This was my vengeful side talking. I'm not going to try and make it even. I'm just going to get the full truth out of her and then steel myself to suggest divorce. Yes, I want her to suffer for what she did. As one user said in a PM, she will suffer most if I leave her. In her own words, she said that would destroy her. But I'm not divorcing her just to spite her. No. I'm doing it because I don't want to remain in a ruined marriage. I'm doing it because she betrayed me, and I'm not willing to be a doormat and excuse her behavior. I probably won't change my mind, but I'll come back with an update later anyway. Update 2. Meant to write this yesterday but didn't get around to it. I thought long and hard about what to do after reading all the responses and PMs, one of which said I deserved to be cheated on, and even had a phone conversation with another Redditor who was kind enough to lend me his time. I confronted her for the full truth yesterday. Same old stuff. Her crying and apologizing and begging for forgiveness. She didn't remember his name since it didn't come up after their introduction. And she said the reason she kept talking to him was because he was practically drooling over her beauty, and she took pity on him for being recently divorced, losing his house, custody, money, etc. So basically, my wife tried to comfort him and got her ego stroked at the same time, then effed him. Her phone was on silent the whole time, very unusual of her, but she wanted to hang out with her friends undisturbed, I suppose. Calls from her husband were considered disruptions that evening. The fact that she gave him what I interpreted as a pity sex made me lose the little respect I had left for her. She swore on her life that she would do whatever it takes for as long as it takes to regain my trust and save our marriage. I asked her what length she was willing to go to, and she said if what it takes is me having sex with another woman right in front of her, then she would go for it. If it took having a half-open relationship on my end, then she would do it. If it took her admitting to her son when he's an adult what she did, she would do it. She said she would do whatever it takes. I'll admit I was surprised and touched by this. In that moment, I understood that my wife was truly remorseful and loved me beyond measure. I saw that her apology, her efforts, everything she had done was genuine. I believed that she would certainly erase her crime if she could. I loved my wife. Then I remembered that many people go through life without ever cheating on their partner, that there are women who would never put themselves in such a situation that could lead to cheating. For the 12 years of our relationship, I have not strayed once, despite having several opportunities to do so, and I know that I deserve a woman who won't betray me. My wife did all she could to try and atone for her infidelity, but once something is broken, you can't restore it to what it once was. I'd rather be unmarried than stay in a once broken, repaired marriage. Even if I took her back, the marriage would never be the same again, and I'm not going to torture myself with such a life. I don't want to constantly be in paranoia, wondering if my wife truly is at the grocery store, if she is actually working late or hurting me again. I told her I wanted a divorce, and she broke. I explained to her why. Despite her pleading, she got on her knees and begged at my feet, saying that she would rather die than be without me. I told her that actions have consequences and I will never forgive her for cheating. She kept crying, and I told her to move back in with her parents for the time being. I said I would take care of our son, but she's allowed to visit him anytime. She kept crying and begging, but I was firm on this. She's moving out in 2 days. I plan to meet with a divorce lawyer soon and get the ball rolling. I'm not sure if time away from my wife will change my feelings, but I strongly doubt it. She made her bed, now she can lie in it. I guess that's it. I'm going to divorce her and hopefully get my life back together. I know it's still too early to think about these things, but I've already decided to remain on civil but minimal terms with my wife when we are divorced. Never will I entertain the idea of reconciling with her, but I will be polite in our future interaction, solely for my son's sake. For the next few months that we're apart, I'm going to make the most of it. I will focus first and foremost on my son. I will periodically check in with my wife's family to see how she is doing. I won't go out and mingle with new women until I'm divorced. I will spend more time at the gym to let out my anger. I will focus my free time on my hobbies, playing the piano and painting, also as a way to let out my emotions. I won't update anymore. Thanks to all who gave advice and tried to help me make the right decision. I'm confident in what I'm doing and I pray things work out for me. Now on to the next story. Story 4. Worked full-time and did most house chores for our family, but my wife demands a 2-week vacation. Hi, I'll try to keep this short. Both in our 30s and have been together 17 years. I, 37 am, am the sole provider for my family of 6, my wife, 36F, and 4 kids, plus 2 high-energy dogs. I work 5 days a week and sometimes work on weekends if we need a little more cash. My partner is a stay-at-home mom and hasn't worked since our eldest was born, by her own choice. I wake up at 5 a.m. and take the dogs out, prepare kids' lunches and snacks, ensure all school essentials such as bags, etc. are at the front door, then head to work in a physically demanding job. Kids are picked up for daycare/school at 7 o'clock. Due to after-school activities and clubs, etc., they're not home until 6 o'clock. I come home at 7 o'clock and make dinner most nights, help with homework, do bedtime for the little ones, do dishes, take dogs out for a longer walk again, put little ones in bed. If the house is a mess, I will, of course, clean it. I pay for everything: mortgage, bills, insurance, groceries, clothes, toys, technology, after-school activities, dates, and a woman to deep clean the house once a month. My partner wants to go on a 2-week-long vacation with her friends, which will overlap with the weekend away I had planned with my brother, who I rarely get to see as we live so far away. She wants me to cancel my trip as she's tired and needs a break. We got into an argument over it in which unkind things were said on both sides, but I am unwilling to budge on this. How do I get through to her that I need some rest? Edit. Additional info. Hello all. Sorry I haven't replied to many comments, but I have read most of them. I've seen a couple of questions I'd like to answer and figure that making a post would be better than replying to individual comments. My children are between 16 and 6. My wife doesn't take anyone to their clubs/activities. Younger children's school finishes at 3 p.m. Their clubs are in the school. Older kids' school finishes at 3:30. They stay in a club until 4:30 and then go to a youth group with their cousins until they come home. My eldest makes their way to and from school on their own, while my youngest are picked up and dropped off. Kids are, of course, able to eat breakfast at home, but often enjoy eating with their friends before school starts at 8. My wife doesn't walk the dogs because she doesn't like to, and frankly, they don't like her. I enjoy my time walking the dogs because it allows me some time to think. We have a large yard with dog houses, toys, and some agility equipment for them to use while I'm gone. They also get mental stimulation through Kongs and puzzle toys which have been prepared and stored in the freezer. What does my wife do all day? Honestly, she's not isolated. She often tells me of things she's done with her friends, sister, mother, etc. She goes to the gym, does and enjoys hobbies such as embroidery, knitting, and some jewelry design. She changes what she likes to do, says it keeps things fresh. Housework-wise, she does the laundry. I fold and distribute later. She will give dogs water and prepared meals/enrichment. We have those robot vacuums and air purifiers to deal with the dog hair, but my wife will vacuum if she feels like it. I wipe countertops, put dishes in the dishwasher after meals. Older kids take care of their own rooms/bathrooms for an allowance. Have you ever not truly noticed something until it's right in front of your face? I was so mad because I wanted to go see my brother, and she wanted to go on vacation with her friends. Yes, she wants me to pay for it, and things have been like this for so long that I didn't see how unfair and imbalanced things were until I truly started to look at how our duties were distributed. You've all given me a lot to think about. I'll answer some comments later. Update 1. July 2nd, 2024. At 37M told my wife 36F that our roles are far from equal in our relationship and that I'm not missing seeing my brother, so she can go on a 2-week vacation with her friends. How do I get through to her? Been together for 17 years. Here is the update. It's not good. It's not totally bad either because apparently I've sprouted a backbone. A lot has happened, and I feel like my world is falling apart. This will be long. The following few paragraphs are some more background. Some of you have suggested that I enable her behavior, and I'd like to address it to explain how things got this way. To begin with, my wife worked from age 16 to 20, but I'd often come home after work during the early stages of her pregnancy, and she would tell me of how bad the morning sickness had been and how she was getting in trouble at work for being late or not turning up due to the issues she was having. One night, after a long discussion about things, she suggested that it would be easier and better for her and the baby if she stayed home during the pregnancy. I was reluctant at first because we weren't exactly swimming in cash, but ultimately, The health of my wife and child were more important than a few months of added stress. To save money, we moved in with my wife's older sister and her husband. We split rent and utilities, but we're still saving some money. The pregnancy wasn't easy on her. She was often cranky and uncomfortable, and as a result could be quite mean, rude, and a bit handsy. So, after further discussions with my wife and her sisters, I took on more of the household duties such as cooking, etc. When my eldest was born, my wife's sister helped with childcare while I was at work for the first year. But after she and my wife had a fight when he was about a year old, we moved into our own place. But my wife struggled during the day when I wasn't there to help, so we ultimately decided to put him in another daycare facility. I would drop him off on my way to work and would pick him up on my way back home when I finished. Once home, one of us would cook dinner while the other watched the baby. Back then, we had no pets, so household duties weren't too much and could be handled by a couple hours cleaning on Saturday or Sunday when we could split it between us both. When my son was 3, my wife's sister offered to get her a job where she worked. My wife had to do an interview, but my SIL was confident she'd get the position. My wife was reluctant and nervous about returning to work but attended the interview and was offered the job. I don't remember much of our celebrations that night, but it ended in the conception of our second child. My wife told me when she'd been at her new job for just over a month. She stuck it out for a couple more weeks but was fired due to not turning up for shifts. I asked one of her doctors about the issues she was having so early in the pregnancy: back pain, leg pain, nausea, etc. But my wife cut me off before I could finish and asked me to leave the room. When we got home, she berated me for speaking to her doctor like she was a child and told me that if she wants something brought up to her doctor regarding her pregnancy, that she'd do it herself. I had embarrassed her because she knew her body and knew what was normal and what wasn't. I still thought the issues had to be addressed with her doctor, but whenever I brought it up, her mood swings would get worse. My MIL came to live with us when my second was born for a short while when I returned to work after my paternity leave. When my daughter was about 4 months old, my wife expressed she was having difficulty looking after her by herself during the day, but my MIL, who had her own life and responsibilities, couldn't come back and stay indefinitely. We had a 2-bedroom apartment then, and having her sleep on the couch didn't seem fair to me, so we enrolled my daughter in daycare while my son was at nursery. My son went to daycare after nursery as well, so I'd pick them both up around 6 p.m. and head home. My wife promised she would speak to her doctor about the possibility of depression, etc., and her mood did improve with the additional help with the children. My wife took on cooking and cleaning duties then, but struggled as well. I would often come home to burned, ruined food and would need to make something else anyway, so I ended up cooking dinner most nights so we wouldn't be wasting food. During a weekend away for a friend's wedding when my daughter was 5, I suggested that my wife go back to work. Both kids were in school now, and I thought we could improve our lifestyle with 2 incomes. We had recently bought a house because the apartment was too small for us, and the children needed their own rooms. She seemed hesitant, which I understood after being out of work for so long, but she agreed. She applied for several positions but had no luck with interviews or callbacks. We found out she was pregnant with our third not long after that, and returning to work was put on hold again. The pregnancy was difficult as expected, but again my MIL came to stay when I had to return to work. She stayed for a while but had to return to her own home eventually. Before she left, my wife told me that she feared she would struggle with our second daughter just as she had the first 2. I tried to reassure her, but she seemed to become insanely depressed the second her mother left. I would return home with the 8- and 5-year-old to a screaming baby and nothing done around the house. Her mood and actions affected the entire house, so reluctantly, I put her second daughter in daycare as well. But I told my wife she had to talk to her doctor, and that we'd no longer be having any more children. She was angry and we had a huge fight about it, but I got a vasectomy, and she accepted it. We've always used protection. My wife is on birth control and I always use condoms, but given that it had already failed twice for us, when my first was conceived after my 21st, I was so drunk I don't think I wore one. Our second after celebrating her new job and our third at our friend's wedding, I didn't want it to happen again. But obviously, the universe had other plans for us, and our third daughter was born 2 years after our second, when we were celebrating a promotion I'd gotten at work. Obviously, this is a brief summary of events, and there have been several other moments through the years when I've suggested she go back to work. But I thought I'd try to provide further background for those who are curious about how we got to where we are. Someone asked if my wife has had a break recently. She has never taken 2 weeks away before, but she goes away a couple of times every year for weekend trips with family and friends. The longest she has been gone is a week. In regards to the dogs and why they don't like her, she doesn't like them. She thinks the mental stimulation I provide through Kong toys, games, puzzles, etc. is unnecessary, but freaks out if their energy levels are too high. One is a German Shepherd, which I was gifted for my birthday, and the other is a German Shepherd/Malinois mix my wife brought home because she thought our GSD needed a friend. Yes, they have been to training and were originally in doggy daycare for the first couple years. Update 2. So, as one of you suggested, I took a day off of work. I genuinely wasn't feeling too good either, but I intended to speak to my wife about the situation while the children were at school. Kids all left for school by 7-ish. My wife came downstairs at 11:45 and seemed very shocked to see me. She asked what I was doing at home, and I explained I took a sick day as I wasn't feeling well. The first words out of her mouth were, "But we need the money. You don't look that bad." I made a face and she quickly asked what was wrong and asked if she could get me anything. I asked for a water and we sat on the couch, but soon her phone rang and she went off into the kitchen to talk. She came back a while later and asked if I wanted to get something to eat, and I said we could make something from the kitchen. She said she wanted to go out, and I said we could order takeout, but I wasn't in the mood to go out. The dogs had been sitting by the chest freezer/waiting near the pantry for their lunchtime enrichment for 10 minutes now, and I asked if she was going to feed them. She flopped onto the couch and asked me to get it. I said no. She asked again and I said no again. She glared at me, but eventually got up and gave it to them. She asked me to take her out again several times, and I kept saying no. I was starting to get a migraine, which I told her, but she kept asking, suggesting we could go shopping, she could get her nails done, and we could enjoy the day together. I refused, said we had something to talk about, and she said we would, then went upstairs. She came back down 40 minutes later dressed up and said if I wasn't going to take her out, she'd go herself. I tried to get her to sit down so we could talk, but she blew me a kiss at the door and rushed outside without even locking it. While she was out, I took some of your advice and canceled the cleaning lady we have. I apologized to her as I really did like her, but she was very understanding, and I think we parted on good terms. She returned home at 8 p.m. and immediately asked where dinner was. I told her the kids and I had already ate. She asked where her dinner was, and I told her she'd have to make something for herself. She said she'd just order something, and I told her no. This gave her pause, and she looked at me like I just told her she had to starve. She said she couldn't cook, and I told her I know she's perfectly capable of making something. We have plenty of foods. It's not like she has to be Gordon Ramsay to stick a tin of soup or something on the stove. She left again and returned 30 minutes later with McDonald's for herself, which set the younger kids off. Yes, they'd already ate, but she walked in the door finishing her burger and drink with an empty bag and McFlurry tub. Our youngest asked why she didn't bring her any ice cream, and my wife said, "Daddy said I wasn't allowed to." I did not say this, and I swear it took more strength than I'd like to admit not to yell at her in front of our daughter. When the kids were in bed, I asked her to sit and talk about the situation regarding our trips. She asked if I'd rescheduled with my brother, and I firmly told her no, and that I wouldn't be. I tried to have a conversation. I explained I felt our duties were incredibly uneven and that I'd like for her to take on more responsibilities with the children and the house. She argued that she does enough, and I asked her to make a list. She put laundry down, feeding the dogs, making doctor's appointments, and grocery shopping. I brought out my own list with everything I've told you guys so far and added that I created the dogs' meals. She simply has to give it to them. I fold and distribute laundry, take kids to doctor's appointments, and that the groceries are ordered through an app on her phone, delivered to the house, and I put them away. She got up then. I asked what she was doing, and she said she was going upstairs. I didn't argue. I didn't want it to resolve to an argument and wake the kids up. She was visibly shaking with anger. A while later, I went upstairs as well. She was on the phone to someone, and when I entered the room, she demanded I leave and go sleep on the couch. I refused and climbed into bed. She hung up the phone and demanded again that I sleep on the couch, and again I refused. She grabbed me and physically tried to drag me out. That resulted in a fight, and I ended up sleeping on the couch because she was going to wake the kids up again. The following days were much of the same. I have stopped folding and putting away her laundry. I do it for myself and the younger kids, and my two oldest take their piles and put them away themselves. I still cook for the kids, but I've told my wife that she has to make her own meals. Petty? I know. I think my eldest heard us arguing because he asked if he could take the dogs out for a couple walks with his friend during the week. He has, and he says he's enjoying it, but I think he and my wife had an argument the other day because he's been very distant with her and things just feel off. He's asked me about 3 times if I love him. Of course, I've told him there is nothing he could ever do to make me not. Yes, I've tried to talk to him about it, but he doesn't want to talk yet, and I need to respect that. I think pushing him could be a mistake. Thursday night, my wife asked if we could have a drink as I had to leave on Friday to see my brother. I had one, but honestly it went right to my head, and honestly just wanted to sleep. She kept trying to initiate sex, but I wasn't in the mood. I woke up Friday morning and my wife was gone. So was her suitcase. I've texted and called, but there's been no answer other than a text telling me we'd talk about it when she's back. She ignored me and went on her trip regardless, and I am furious. I have left her some cash in the bank account she has the card to, but I've removed everything else into another account. I had to call my brother why I wouldn't be coming to see him, and he arrived here on Saturday with my nephew and 2 nieces. The house is very full, but honestly, it feels more open than it has in a long, long time. The kids seem relaxed and so do the dogs. I don't know what will happen with my wife, but I am done. I can't afford a lawyer right now, and unfortunately, I don't know any who could give me a deal or do me a favor, but this marriage is over. It should have been a long time ago. Comments where OP has replied. Comment on if his wife might have undiagnosed health problems, including PPD. OP. I spoke to her doctor about the issues she was having because she would not. He asked her what was happening, how she was, and she would say the pregnancy was fine, she was having no issues. Yet at home, all I got was how hard things were, how ill she felt, how sore she was, screaming, yelling at me. I went into the bed because I am 6 feet 5 inches and work a physically and mentally demanding job. It is not good for my body to sleep on a 2-seater couch. I wanted to sleep as I had work in the morning. She escalated and got physical, not me. She made the argument worse, not me. Undiagnosed PPD? She has been to her doctor, who had diagnosed her with nothing. She told me so herself. And as for me knocking her up, it takes 2 people to create a child. We do not live in America, and my wife is pro-choice. If she wanted to terminate, she has the ability to do so. I told her after our second was born that I didn't think having more kids was a good idea, and she insisted. I said the same thing after our third, and after my vasectomy, she lost her mind. Let her go on vacation and feel like herself for the first time in forever. Did she not feel like herself when she went on multiple weekends away last year with her friends? Does she not feel like herself when she's hanging with the girls for lunch dates through the month? Do you know the last time I saw my brother in person before the pandemic? He is here to support me. If you want my wife to go on vacation so I can't, then it's perfectly reasonable that my brother can come to the home I pay for when I need him. Are you my wife? Update 3, July 2nd, 2024. I'm not going to add this to the post as it's already long enough. Please excuse any spelling mistakes as I'm so tired. Thank you all, but I'm not in America. I know a lot of you have suggested I message her telling her I'm going to divorce her, etc., but I think I'm going to play it cool, act like I've accepted her decision so she's not on guard. I know she said something to my son, but he won't tell me what it is, and I feel like if I push him to, he might not ever. But my nephew and him are hanging out a lot. They're close despite not seeing each other much, so I'm hoping he might confide in him and maybe open up. I'm not just letting this go. We will talk, but I don't want to push him too much. I am not a lightweight. I can drink, but I have been exhausted, and I mean very exhausted for some time now, and I think that maybe that's why I passed out after having 1 drink. But I would be lying to myself and to you if I said I wasn't suspicious. I am suspicious of a lot now. I swear I'm not an idiot, but I really feel like one now. Some of you have suggested that I get the kids' DNA tested, especially my youngest, and while I know that this is likely something I'll have to do, it breaks my heart to think that they're not mine. My girls all look the same, just older versions of each other, so if I have to DNA test the youngest, I have to do them all. I never wanted kids. This is why I've always used condoms. I'm not the biggest fan of them, but I love my own. I love these kids regardless of the DNA test. They are mine, but I fear if it comes back that they're not, it could damage our relationship. My brother has read my posts and spent the last days telling me everything he hates about my wife, obviously not in front of the kids. He's pretty funny, and I feel like I haven't been able to laugh like this in a long time. He says he's going to make a Reddit account. Lord knows what he'll say. Writing this update has opened my eyes further. I see how the timing of wanting her to go back to work lines up with each pregnancy. But when these things are years apart and you're concentrating on supporting the family and work, your brain sometimes pushes these thoughts away until something triggers them again, and boom, you're slapped in the face with the realization that your entire relationship is potentially built on a mountain of lies. She has her phone and iPad with her, so I can't check any of that, but I'm going to be going through her stuff. Is it an invasion of privacy? Likely. Do I care right now? No. I feel like I've wasted the majority of my life, the good years, and that feels horrible to say when I have 4 kids. I promise I don't mean that they're a waste. As I said in the post, this marriage is over. I am done. My kids deserve better. But I won't be alone when I confront her. As I said, she can get handsy, and no, I have never retaliated, and I don't want to be put into a position where I need to. I thank you all for your comments, your insight, your kindness. I know I haven't replied to many comments at all, but don't really have time to do so when there are so many, but I am trying to respond to DMs as that seems like the easier thing to do. I want to ask my SIL what actually happened with my wife in that job, but I don't want her to know I'm suspicious. My SIL is a kind woman, but she is my wife's sister, so her loyalty may lay with her, I suppose, and I don't want to alert my soon-to-be ex. Does anyone have any ideas how I can do this? Seems odd to bring up a job my wife had for a very brief time years ago. I wish you all the best. Now on to the next story. Story 5. Husband's crazy friend tried to ruin our relationship. Pretended to apologize, became my friend, and then created fake messages from his ex-girlfriend to break us up. I, 26F, want my husband, 27M, to immediately block one of his friends, Kyla, 27F. He thinks I am overreacting and wants opinions from some cool-headed people on if I'm just acting crazy, or this is something that would cross the line for you. My husband has a group of 8 friends he is close with since his college days. Kyla is one of his friends. When my husband and I started dating, he introduced me to all of them, and everyone was very friendly. I used to hang out with them frequently. I am an introvert, and so is my husband. I would always ask him to spend time alone, as being in social settings just saps all my energy away. His friends, and especially Kyla, always made it a point to tell me how he hangs out with them less after he started dating me. Kyla also had a weird energy around me. If I was with my husband, she would be the most friendliest with me. However, as soon as he walked away, she acted like I did not exist. My husband hates to be touched by others. We both are ND. But Kyla would always tease him by trying to hug him, mess his hair, etc. I never felt she was flirting with him, but just teasing him to make him annoyed. Overall, she just feels like a person who has a severe social boundary issue. We got married 2 years ago, and things have been great between us. Last week, we had our 2nd marriage anniversary and invited a bunch of people. His friends stayed back after all the guests left, and we were all drinking and chatting. One of his friends, Jen, became a bit tipsy and started complimenting me on how beautiful our house is, how I care for my husband, and how he has changed for the better since marriage. Everyone was laughing at my husband at how much of a slob he was when he was single. Jen then pointed at Kyla and said, "You better pay up, 'cause you had bet that their marriage would not even last for 2 years. Everyone became silent and started changing the topic. I also did not want to spoil the mood and let it go, but it stuck in my head. After everyone left, I asked my husband what Jen was talking about. He also had noticed Jen saying that and was ready with a full explanation. He told me the story of what happened when we got engaged. When he proposed to me, he had not told his friends that he was going to do that. We went on a trip to Puerto Rico, and he surprised me there. We put our engagement pictures on Instagram while we were on the trip, and it was a big surprise to everyone, as we were only dating for 1 year. When he came back and met all his friends, everyone congratulated him. However, Kyla started ranting about how he was a fool to propose so quickly, and she felt that I was not the right girl for him. Seems like she said some unkind things about me, implying I was a gold digger. My husband's family is wealthy, but so is mine. She had said that she bet we would break up within 2 years if we got married. That is why Jen was taunting her about how happy my husband was with me. I was very furious at this point, as I feel this is something he should have told me. I asked him to tell me truthfully if he had ever dated Kyla or had any history with her, as he has always told me that he has never dated anyone from his friend group. He said that he has, of course, not dated or hooked up with Kyla. However, Kyla had asked him out a few times when they were in college, and he always politely declined. I asked why he said no to her, and he said he just does not have any romantic feelings for her. I can see that because my husband does have a type based on me or the other people he has dated in the past, and Kyla is the opposite of that. I am just mad at her for saying bad things about me, especially after knowing that we were already engaged and betting against my marriage. I told my husband that he needs to minimize contact with Kyla, and she is not invited to parties at our house anymore. He feels I'm being too harsh for something she said almost 3 years ago. He also pointed out that she has been very supportive to both of us and also helped a lot during our wedding arrangements. He feels she is just blunt and forthright when she speaks but does not mean those things. He told me to take some time and calm down, and we would revisit this topic in a week. He is worried this will completely change the dynamics within his friend group. Am I the A for wanting him to block her and stop inviting her to our house? Do you think I'm overreacting? I think betting against our marriage and bad-mouthing me behind my back seems like a huge betrayal. I am also mad at my husband that he kept this fact from me and also never told me that Kyla asked him out during college days. Am I just being crazy and reactive? How would you react in this situation? I don't want to distance my husband from his friends, but I also do not want to see that crap Kyla's face again. Comments. Comment 1. Info. How has Kyla acted since the wedding? Has her behavior changed? You describe a bad behavior in the past tense, so one might believe she's not doing those things anymore. Does she still exhibit boundary issues with your husband? Comment 2. Yes, her behavior with my husband has not changed at all after marriage. However, she is the same with all other friends too. With me, she is fake nice, where she acts like we are best friends in front of my husband and barely talks to me when he is not around. Comment 3. What did he think when you told him that she's totally different when he leaves? Comment 4. He just says she does not know you that well. Just ignore her. She has never said anything negative to my face. However, as a girl, you just know when someone does not like you. It's hard to explain to him that it's your feeling and not based on anything she has specifically said or done. Comment 5 NTA. Being blunt or forthright isn't a pass to be rude and contemptuous to your friend. So I consider myself forthright, and yet I can still use manners in attack. I would dump a friend who was so snakish to my husband and I. Comment 6 NTA. It's definitely natural for you to dislike Kyla. Sounds like she's into your husband. It'll probably be hard for him to outright block her considering the dynamic of the friend group, and the last thing you want is to turn all his friends against you. Personally, I don't think blocking her is the solution, but to instead sit him down and seriously voice your concerns. That she would say something like that she touches him too often, that she would bet against your marriage behind your back. That stuff needs to be shut down and he needs to be on your side. Personally, I'd get drunk with them and make a cocky joke to Kyla when you're alone that she's jealous you ended up with him instead of her, and laugh in her face, but I'm petty as LOL. Comment 7. If it changes the dynamics of the friend group, then there is no one to blame but Kyla. She's the one who feels the need to cross boundaries and make bets against your marriage. I wouldn't stop going to events that she is invited to, but I also wouldn't invite her into my home, nor to events that I've planned/hosted. NTA. Update. I had posted almost 6 months ago regarding my husband's friend Kyla betting that our marriage would not last for more than 2 years. I was upset and had asked my husband to stop talking to her because she disrespected our marriage. Since then, Kyla has pulled some really pathetic crap to stir up issues between my husband and I. After I wrote the post, my husband was trying to convince me that Kyla was just joking when she made those comments and it happened so long ago. Kyla messaged me the next day, apologizing to me for her comments and also not making more efforts to connect with me. I accepted her apology and started warming up to her. She started inviting me for brunches and girls' night out with them, and I felt included in their friend group. One day during brunch, I brought up why Kyla really thought our marriage would not work out. Kyla told me that my husband broke up with his long-term ex-girlfriend, Joanna, 2 months before he started dating me. I knew that part, but Kyla told me that my husband was really heartbroken after the breakup and swore to her that he would stay away from dating anyone. When he met me, my mom set us up on a blind date. She was surprised how quickly we hit it off. Kyla thought that I was his rebound relationship, but when he proposed to me within a year, she was worried that he was making a very rash decision. My husband's family is rich, and she thought it was unwise for him to marry so quickly without knowing me well. She did not know enough about me and that my family is also very well off. That is why she was concerned that I was taking advantage of his vulnerable state. She apologized to me and said that it was wrong for her to assume that. Over the years, she has seen how happy we are together. I appreciated her honesty, and Kyla and I became good friends since then and started hanging out more frequently. Around 2 months ago, my husband went for a conference to Seattle for 3 nights. After he came back, I got a "Hey, girly" message on Instagram from Joanna, his ex. She told me that my husband contacted her a few months ago and they met in Seattle during the conference, and she could give me more proof if I wanted. I went through my husband's Instagram, but he seems to have blocked her. I made a mistake of mentioning it to Kyla, as she is the only person honest to me about Joanna, and she went in detective mode to help me. She was still friends with Joanna on Instagram as they all went to college together, and opened her profile. The message sent to me was from a different profile with no followers. We checked her photos and we saw that she attended the same conference as my husband did in Seattle. Kyla suggested I should ask Joanna for more proof and also asked my husband about the same before assuming the worst. I asked my husband if he met Joanna, and he said yes. He told me he just met her in the expo hall and chatted with her for a few minutes. I asked him why he did not mention it to me, and he told me it was just a quick conversation and he did not think too much of it. He asked me how I knew it, and I told him that Kyla mentioned that she saw her pictures at the conference and I thought he might have seen her. I messaged Joanna again to share more proof. She told me that they have been chatting for the past 2 months and plan to attend the conference together. She shared a log of their messages where my husband was actively flirting with her. The screenshots did look legit, but I did not see any of those messages in my husband's Instagram profile. I talked to Kyla about it as I did not know what to believe. I messaged Joanna to tell us what happened between them, and she told me that he invited her to the room at night and they hooked up, but she does not have any photos as he insisted they do not take any pictures together. I immediately realized it was fake and messaged Joanna to screw off. She kept on insisting they were telling the truth and she spent the nights with my husband in his room on all 3 nights. I told that my husband and I were playing video game Sea of Thieves for almost 2 to 3 hours each night after his dinner, as that is what we do to catch up when he is away. Unless Joanna was sitting behind him watching us play until he fell asleep, she was full of crap. I also told my husband about the whole incident, and he told me I should have come to him sooner. He told me that he has gone no contact with Joanna ever since they broke up and he just ran into her at the conference. He told me I could check his phone and everything to verify that he has blocked her everywhere. I told him I do not need to, and Joanna might have run into him and just decided to mess his life by making up stuff. When all the friends met the weekend, my husband and I told everyone about how Joanna sent messages to me and faked everything. Kyla was also telling what happened, as she had told her about it. Kyla accidentally let it slip out that, "It's luckily we are nerds and play video games at nights before sleeping, else props go to Joanna for making up a convincing story." I never told Kyla about the video game stuff. I just told her Joanna is full of crap and I blocked her. Took me until I came home to connect the dots. I told my husband about it and he confronted Kyla. She denied it and told him that I told her about the video game stuff on a phone call, but I don't remember doing it. We have since decided to keep our distance from Kyla. Kyla has called me multiple times to meet up, but I just make up reasons that I'm busy. I do not know why she did it, but at this point, I am not interested in it, and we have decided to just see her on social occasions and avoid hanging out with her as much as possible. I feel stupid that she played me for a fool, and I should have not gone to her when Joanna started messaging me. In hindsight, it seems suspicious that Kyla started telling me about Joanna, and at the same time, Joanna claimed to have an affair with my husband. I do not know what her intentions are, but I am mad enough that I will avoid her as much as possible. I wish I had some real proof that she was the one messaging me so that I could expose her. I also feel bad for suspecting my husband, but I am glad my husband and I are on the same page now. Now on to the next story. Story 6. Girlfriend asked for a break because of a new guy, so I left her and moved to a new city. Now she's stalking me. Her parents apologized and she wants me back, but I refuse to talk to her. I, 34M, am struggling with whether I'm in the wrong for refusing to talk to my ex, Sarah, 29F, not her real name. There's a lot of history here, and I'll do my best to explain everything clearly. In mid-2022, I met Sarah at work and we hit it off immediately. I fell for her quickly, and it didn't take long before we started dating. However, early in our relationship, Sarah broke up with me over something minor. To make matters worse, she made a scene in front of everyone at work. I was devastated but didn't want to leave my job at first. Eventually, I realized I still had feelings for her, and seeing her every day became too painful. That's when I decided to quit and find a new job. We lived close to each other, so we bumped into each other frequently over the next few months. We started talking again, but even though I still had feelings for her, I couldn't bring myself to consider getting back together. What she had done hurt me deeply. After a couple of months, she told me she regretted breaking up with me over something so minor. She admitted that doing it in front of everyone was wrong and that she had been thinking about it ever since. She seemed genuinely remorseful, and I could see she meant it. Feeling that her apology was sincere, I asked if she wanted to give our relationship another try. She agreed, and by early 2023, we were officially back together. 1 year later, things were going great. We talked about marriage and building a future together, which made me feel ready to take the next step. I decided to surprise her with a proposal and started working extra hours to save for a house so we could marry not long after. I didn't tell her why I was working so much because I wanted it to be a complete surprise. Then, out of nowhere, she asked for a break. I was blindsided, and when I asked why, she refused to explain. Around the same time, I noticed she had been talking nonstop about a new guy at her workplace, but suddenly she stopped mentioning him altogether, which made me suspicious. Confused and hurt, I reached out to one of my close friends, Emily, not her real name, who, along with her boyfriend, still worked at the same place as Sarah. I vented to Emily about what was going on and asked if she knew anything. She said she didn't because she worked in a different department, but she promised to ask around. A few days later, Emily got back to me. She told me that Sarah had been feeling like I was distant lately, especially with me working extra hours and not going out much. Emily said some of Sarah's colleagues had been encouraging her to take a break, claiming I wasn't treating her well and wasn't as invested in the relationship. On top of that, they were trying to match her up with a new guy at work, saying they'd make a better pair. I told Emily about my plans to propose and buy a house for Sarah and me. That was the reason I'd been working so much. I wanted to surprise her with something big. After about 2 weeks, Sarah called me and asked to meet up. I agreed, but told her up front that I needed an explanation for why she wanted a break before we could discuss anything else. She brought up how distant I had seemed, saying it made her feel like I wasn't as invested in the relationship anymore. I told her that if she had just talked to me about it, she would have known there was a reason for my behavior, but now it didn't matter anymore. Then she mentioned the new guy at her workplace. I said his name before she could, and she looked surprised, asking how I knew. I told her I wasn't an idiot. I'd noticed how she suddenly stopped talking about him after bringing him up all the time. She swore that she had never cheated on me. I replied that looking for someone better at the first sign of trouble could be considered cheating by some. At that point, I told her I didn't want to hear whatever else she had to say. Whether or not she wanted to get back together didn't matter. I was breaking up with her regardless. The breakup deeply hurt me. I couldn't bear staying in the same place, so I asked my company for a transfer and used the money I'd saved for the proposal to start over in a new city. While talking to Emily, the friend I had vented to before, she apologized to me. She admitted that she had slipped up and told Sarah about my plans to propose and buy a house. Emily said Sarah broke down crying after hearing that. I appreciated Emily's honesty, but it didn't change what had happened. By mid-December last year, I returned to my hometown to spend Christmas and New Year's with my family. Some friends wanted to organize a party to get everyone together, since many of us, myself included, had moved away and were only visiting for the holidays. Sarah was invited too. We barely interacted that night, just a quick hi in passing. At one point, I glanced at her and saw her smiling while chatting with a group of women. That smile brought back so many memories. I realized that seeing her smile still made me feel the same way I did the first time I saw it. I thought to myself, how screwed up am I that I still feel this way? Despite those lingering feelings, I was still sad and deeply hurt by how things had ended. Looking back, I also started to blame myself. I should have paid more attention to how she was feeling. I could have told her about the extra work and why I was doing it. Maybe things would have turned out differently. Later that evening, one of my friends mentioned that Sarah's relationship with the guy from her work had only lasted a couple of months. After the holidays, I planned to return to the city where I now lived. My vacation ended on January 6th, so I decided to leave on Friday. That way, I'd have Saturday to sort everything out at home and prepare for the week ahead, with Sunday to relax before going back to work. Before I left, one of my friends from back home called me. He said he had a favor to ask on behalf of someone else and warned me that I wouldn't like it. I could already feel my stomach sinking. Then he told me it was Sarah. She was moving to the same city where I lived to work at her relative's company, and she needed a ride. He asked if I could take her. I didn't even think about it before I said no. The idea of being stuck in a car with her for hours was too much to bear. It would have been painfully awkward, just like the party, and I wasn't ready to put myself through that. He told me that Sarah and I needed to talk, but I wasn't having any of it. I went back home, and last week, I went for a run and stopped to rest a little in a park when I heard a familiar voice say, "Hi." It was Sarah. She tried to start a conversation by asking how I was and mentioning that we didn't get a chance to talk at the party. But I cut her off, saying I didn't want to talk to her. She told me not to be like that we needed to have a conversation. But I said no. She asked how I could still resent her after almost a year and after everything we'd been through. But I told her it wasn't resentment. I was very honest. I told her that thinking about her, talking about her, or even seeing her still hurts a lot, and that's why I couldn't talk to her. She said that was exactly why we needed to talk. I didn't see the point. I just walked away. Since then, Sarah's tried to approach me twice more, and I've shut her down both times. Some of my friends think I'm being too harsh and that I should talk to her for closure. Others say it's not okay to torture her over what happened forever, but that's not what this is about. I don't have any resentment or negative feelings toward her anymore. I even recognize now that I share some of the blame, but it still hurts. I can't talk to her because it's like reopening an old wound that never fully healed. ITA for refusing to talk to her? Additional information from OP after reading comments. Thank you all for your advices. I just want to explain better one thing. My friends are not calling me or messaging me saying that I should talk to her. That's just the opinion of some of them when the subject was brought up. Update 1, February 2nd, 2025. Hey everyone. I wanted to give an update and thank you all for your input. I took the time to read through every comment, and while I didn't respond to all of them, it was only because I didn't have anything to add. I'm truly grateful for everyone who shared their thoughts. It has been incredibly helpful. After reading everything and thinking it through, I've decided to stick to my decision not to talk to Sarah. Something I forgot to mention in my original post, though I did tell a few commenters, is that I blocked her everywhere after we broke up the second time. Over the last few days, it seems like her persistence has started to backfire. Some of our mutual friends, including the ones who initially told me I should talk to her, have become frustrated with her constant attempts to contact me. Apparently, they've started turning on her because of it. 3 days ago, Emily, the friend I vented to back then, made a post on social media about stalkers. She didn't name Sarah, but a lot of people picked up on what she meant. I've also seen several comments on my original post suggesting that Sarah might have been stalking me. Her job in the same city and her coincidental appearance at the park all line up with that theory. For what it's worth, I know her uncle owns a company here, so maybe that is really why she moved, but honestly, it's not my problem and I'm not going to look into it. Things have been quieter. Friends have dropped the subject, and Sarah hasn't tried to reach out again. That is, until yesterday. I watched the UFC event with some coworkers. When it ended, I was heading to my car when my phone rang. It was one of our mutual friends calling. She said she had been talking to Sarah and asked if she could pass along a message. I sighed but told her to make it quick. The message was simple. Sarah said she understands why I don't want to talk to her. She promised she wouldn't try to reach out again, but added that she still thinks we need to talk. She said the door is open if I ever want to. I told my friend I didn't have a message to pass back and asked her not to bring up Sarah again in our conversations. If what Sarah said is true, it's a relief, but I'm not holding my breath. I wouldn't be surprised if she tries something else. Maybe she thinks giving me space will make me go to her, but it won't. That chapter of my life is closed. Right now, I just want to focus on myself. I probably won't be dating anyone anytime soon. If there is one thing I've learned, it's that I need to get to know people better before jumping into a relationship. I've also been thinking about how loosely I use the word friend. That is another part of my life I need to rethink. Some of the people I have called friends have proven they don't have my best interests at heart. A few people suggested therapy in the comments, and I'll admit it is something I've been considering. For now, I'm giving myself time to heal on my own, but if I still don't feel right after a while, I will look into it. Thanks again to everyone who took the time to comment. Your advice has been a huge help in sorting all this out. Update 2, February 16, 2025. There's been no sign of Sarah these past few weeks, and no one's brought her up in conversation either. That's a good thing. Then last Tuesday, February 11th, I got a DM from Sarah's mother. She said she wanted to apologize for her daughter's behavior and asked me to call her. I've always had a great relationship with Sarah's parents. They're genuinely good people. Even during both breakups, they were always respectful and never overstepped. I didn't really want to talk about Sarah anymore, but I also didn't want to ignore her mother. After thinking it over for a few minutes, I decided I'd call her. However, if she tried to convince me to speak with Sarah or anything along those lines, I'd politely end the conversation. When she answered, she put me on speaker so Sarah's father could join in. I half expected to hear Sarah's voice too, but fortunately, that didn't happen. The conversation itself was actually really good. They started by apologizing for Sarah's recent behavior. I immediately told them they had nothing to apologize for, but they insisted, saying they felt it was the right thing to do. They also told me they had no idea what had been going on until recently. Once they found out, they called Sarah and had a long talk with her. Her father admitted that it was the kind of conversation he'd expect to have with a teenager, not an almost 30-year-old woman. Sarah promised them she'd stay away from me and seek therapy. I felt relieved, not just for myself, but for her too. Everything that happened between us wasn't great, but I genuinely wish her the best. I hope she finds happiness. Before we ended the call, I thanked her parents and reiterated how much I respected and admired them. Now I can finally say with certainty that this is over. Sarah would never betray her parents' trust. Thank you all for the advice. It really meant a lot. Now on to the next story. Story 7. My girlfriend became obsessed with my college FWB, who joined her PhD program, so I cut her out of all my photos after I broke up with her. But she created fake ads with my friends' pictures. Melissa and I have been dating for a little less than 2 years. It's been an amazing relationship. Admittedly my only one, but I'm really happy with her. We are both in PhD programs at the same university. This is where we met, but in different STEM fields. We've been considering moving in together, getting pets, and overall I'd say our relationship is pretty serious, and she has even mentioned getting married before. I can definitely see a future with her, but it's still a bit early for me, and right now I'd like to focus on my research and securing a future that can support both of us. She took that kind of harshly, but I just wasn't ready to commit to something like that yet. That was the only bump we've had until Natalia entered the picture again. Some background info. Natalia and I went to the same college for undergrad. She studies the same branch of biology that my current GF studies and is a year younger than I am. We were in the same science-related clubs and a professional fraternity together and quickly became very close friends, as Natalia and I had extremely similar personalities and interests. We spent weekends together, were each other's dates to all formal events, but we never dated, even though we both liked each other and slept with each other. We were just too scared to ask the other what they wanted. It sounds silly and immature, but that's just what happened. We were essentially FWB for 2 years, but we always knew that we had very different plans for the immediate future. I was graduating before her, and she was going to move to another country to work and do research before coming back to the States for her PhD. It was kind of an unspoken recognition that when I graduated we were going to go our separate ways, but we always joked that maybe we would run into each other again since we had the same dream school for grad school. We tried to remain in contact when I left, but it was just too hard on both of us. We missed each other but were busy with our own lives and eventually stopped talking. No hard feelings, it happens, we moved on. That was almost 5 years ago. Before Melissa, I used to wonder if Natalia and I could have made it together, but now that I have a girlfriend, that hasn't popped into my head at all. I am happy now, or at least I was. Last year, Natalia was accepted into the PhD program at my university. It's the same dream school we talked about years ago. I didn't know this until a little over half a year ago. One day, my girlfriend came over because she was really upset. I will spare most of the details, but basically, a professor in her department had told her that he had room for one more grad student to join him on one of his research trips to South America the following summer. My girlfriend really thought he was going to pick her because they had a pretty good relationship, but he had met with her and told her that there was a new grad student that already had experience with this particular species, worked with the South American university he was collaborating with, and spoke Spanish. She was denied the position, and I tried to explain to her that some people just have different expertise. Over the next month, she would tell me more and more about this new grad student and how everyone who met her practically fell in love with her or found her extremely interesting, that she was super cool, fawned over her, etc. It made my girlfriend extremely sad because she has always had issues with insecurity and feeling like she has to try extra hard for people to think she's worth anything. I tried to tell my GF that she is great at what she does and to stop comparing herself to other people because it just makes her upset. But she said, "No, you haven't seen her yet. She's extremely smart. She's been all over the world. She's a literal 10. Natalia is utter perfection." I kind of froze at that moment because somehow I immediately knew this was my friend. I kept trying to tell my GF all the ways I admired her, but I realized it wasn't helping. So all I would do was listen to her and be someone she could vent to. I admit I was curious, but I didn't want to complicate things for Melissa. So I didn't try to contact Natalia or find out if it was even her. A few weeks later, however, I ran into her at a cafe on campus. It was really great to see her again. We sat with each other for about an hour and a half, just catching up with one another. I told her about my research and she told me about hers. She had accomplished so much for herself in the few years since I had seen her last, and I was so happy for her. I told her I had a girlfriend who was in the same department as she was, and she asked if we could all hang out sometime since she was still new to the town. Natalia seemed really excited and not at all disappointed. We exchanged numbers and parted ways. It felt evident to me that we had moved on. Whatever romantic feelings we had for each other were purely platonic now. We were both doing very well and genuinely happy. That night, I told my girlfriend that I ran into Natalia and she was actually a really good friend of mine from college. I knew my girlfriend felt really insecure at work and in the lab, and I did not want her to feel threatened within our relationship. I suggested we all have lunch sometime so she can meet her because I actually thought they could get along. GF was kind of taken aback and immediately started asking me if I ever liked Natalia, if she was my ex, and if we dated. I said no, we never dated. We were only friends, but I did like her a lot. I reminded her that this was 4 years ago and that I have not thought about her at all since I started dating GF. GF left the house for the night because she said she was really stressed and didn't want to think about it right now. I felt like I had done something wrong and decided I wouldn't mention Natalia again. Ever since that night, GF would ask me really strange questions like if I thought she was smart enough. Of course I think she's smart. The university we are at is one of the best in the nation. She then said, well, you and Natalia went to Ivy League University for undergrad, and I went to State University, so she's clearly beat me both times. I was appalled and told her, there is no competition. I am with you. It doesn't matter where you went to undergrad. Look at where you are now. She just wouldn't stop talking about how much more experience Natalia has and how much better her resume probably looks. She would ask me this multiple times, and it really upsets me to see how much she works herself up over these things. What's worse is when she compares her looks to Natalia's. Lately, Melissa will not stop complaining about how pale she is, how easily she sunburns, how short her hair is, how nothing fits her well. She says, I wonder how Natalia stays so skinny. I wish I was mixed like Natalia. Natalia is so exotic looking. I always tell her how beautiful she looks, how attractive I find her. Melissa is beautiful. I love everything about her, even though she doesn't. I would never say this to Melissa. It's even difficult to write, even though Melissa has said it to me. But Natalia is definitely a more conventionally attractive woman in terms of arbitrary societal beauty standards, but that doesn't matter to me. I don't love my GF just because of her looks, but it's so difficult to convince someone that you find them attractive when they want to jump out of their own skin. I've caught Melissa stalking Natalia's Facebook profile, Instagram, lab page. It's ridiculous. I can't understand why she does it when it gets her so upset. Melissa isn't fat at all, but lately she has been rejecting me when I try to initiate sex because she feels fat or not sexy enough, and I think this is due to the aforementioned insecurities. I try to talk her through them, but it always ends with the same conclusion. And she says, I'm sorry, I'm not good enough. I only talk to Natalia in the cafe. We have lunch together maybe twice a week, but we never plan it. I have always eaten lunch at the same time, at the same place, and Natalia will come in every few days, and when she does, we sit together for about an hour and talk. Occasionally, she will text me before lunch asking if I'm there or planning on going there, and that's the only time we text or talk outside of the cafe. I feel like this is an appropriate amount of communication for two friends. I feel bad for never being able to hang out with her, but I know it would upset Melissa. There have been a few times when Melissa has joined me in the cafe and Natalia has sat with us. Honestly, Melissa is straight up rude to her. At first, I think she tried to be nice, but just got too upset. She either remains silent or responds with really short, cold answers. It makes me really sad because I know Melissa is struggling with insecurities, but Natalia is a really good friend of mine who has only been nice to me. She has invited me and Melissa out numerous times, and each time Melissa declines. I once told her I was going to attend a comedy show with Natalia. It was a comedian I once took Natalia to see in college, and Melissa broke down, so I decided I would never go anywhere with Natalia unless Melissa is there too. Some of you might say, why don't you just stop talking to Natalia? Is she more important than your relationship with Melissa? I don't really know what to do. I see Natalia for 2 hours a week, and we don't hang out or even talk outside of that. I have given Melissa no reason to think I am cheating or being unfaithful. Natalia has only ever been a good friend to me, and I shouldn't have to cut her out of my life when she already plays such a little role. It feels kind of unfair to me because honestly, sometimes I wish I could see Natalia more because she's a really wonderful, interesting person, but Melissa is definitely a priority in my life, so I have kept our friendship very casual and minimal. I think there is a bigger problem in that Melissa is not the same person I entered a relationship with. She's sad, always stressed, much more cranky and snappy with me. Her insecurities make her shy away and retreat into herself, so it feels like I can never reach her anymore. She has been denying me sex and complaining about how she isn't good enough for me, and it has honestly been pushing me away from her. I find that I no longer want to deal with her insecurities and constantly validating that I love her. I have suggested therapy before because I think the real problem is not Natalia but Melissa's underlying insecurities. This is not normal, and it causes her so much unnecessary stress. Melissa always says, okay, I will think about it. And when I bring it up again, she gets really defensive, asking me why I think something is wrong with her. I just think a professional would be able to help her work through her own thoughts better so that she can accept herself more because clearly what I am saying to her doesn't get through. It's hard to see her so unhappy. Edit. Because someone asked, I should have clarified that I also told Melissa that Natalia and I slept with each other in college. I didn't hide that from her. I can see why that would upset her, but I really tried to stress how long ago it was and how I was happy with Melissa now. The past does not affect anything about how I feel now. Update 1. Alright, so I posted here a few weeks ago concerning my GF Melissa and my ex-FWB from college, Natalia. The gist of the story was that Melissa kept comparing herself to Natalia, who was a grad student in her field of biology she feels is basically the epitome of perfection. It got to the point where Melissa would spend hours staring at pics of Natalia, and every time I tried to be intimate with her, she would shut me down, saying she wasn't good enough. I got a lot of flack in the last post because Natalia and I ate lunch together a few times a week, but as a lot of commenters suggested, I eat at a different place now and no longer see Natalia. I think Natalia took the hint, and we haven't spoken since I posted that. Anyway, I'm posting now because I feel Melissa's obsession with Natalia hasn't gotten better at all, and she did something that I'm not sure I consider forgivable. When I graduated from college, my mom made me a photo album of pics with me and all my friends doing whatever it is college students do. It means a lot to me because I rarely see my old friends, and unfortunately one of them passed away, so these are physical representations of cherished memories. Yesterday afternoon, I received a Facebook message from my late friend Dan's mother. She asked me if I had any pics of Dan from our fraternity events. We were in the same professional fraternity. I said, of course, and that I would scan them and send them over to her. I looked through my album and was suddenly shocked to find a few pictures in which Natalia was cut out of the photo. Some were just of me and her. Some were of a group of friends. After flipping a few more pages, I saw one that broke my heart. It was a picture of Natalia, Dan, and a few other friends during one of our formals, as we were all in the same fraternity. I kept searching through and found that this was the case for maybe 12 pictures, 3 including Dan. It felt like I had swallowed a pound of rocks, and I honestly just felt so angry. I knew it had to be Melissa, as I would never have done this. I sent the uncut pics to Dan's mom and texted Melissa, asking her if she was still on campus so we could meet. When I saw her, I asked her why she cut my photos, and she said, "What are you talking about?" But I could tell from her face she knew she was caught. I was so furious. I told her that it was extremely disrespectful and that she had no right to destroy them the way she did. I even mentioned that some of the pictures she cut were taken with my friend who had passed away and now she had ruined them. She immediately started crying and apologizing, saying she didn't know what came over her. She said she still has the pictures of Natalia and that she can put them back together. I felt like I was going to explode, so I just excused myself and left. Melissa has been blowing up my phone, but I haven't read any of the messages or listened to the voicemails. I feel so drained. I got a lot of flack on my last post, so I bet a lot of you will think I had this coming. I know I can't convince you of how hard I've tried to make Melissa feel like she is the only girl I wanted to be with. No matter how many times she has asked me if she's pretty, if I find her sexy, if I think she is smart, I always tell her how amazing I find her, but it just isn't enough. Maybe I should have never spoken to Natalia when I found out she was attending the same university as me, but I don't think that gives my GF/ex-GF the right to destroy my property. The album has literally sat on my shelf for years. It's not like I look at it every day and fawn over my ex. I have never even shown it to Melissa, so she must have been snooping through my belongings, which honestly, I wouldn't even care about if she hadn't destroyed the pictures of my dead friend because of her petty jealousy. I just feel exhausted. I feel like I'll never make Melissa happy. I could have done things differently, sure, but I feel like she never tried to work on her insecurities and confidence in herself either. Update 2. Feel free to creep through the history. My ex-GF Melissa was very jealous of my old FWB, her colleague Natalia. Her obsession was extremely unhealthy, and she did something to me that I considered unforgivable, hence the breakup. Now, this was 8 to 9 months ago, and since then, Natalia and I have rekindled our friendship. She knows why Melissa and I broke up and felt very guilty, but she was always a good friend to me, and I like having her in my life. I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, and people will say they saw it coming, but whatever, I'm not asking for judgment. What's done is done, and I thought we had all moved on. Last month, me, Natalia, and a few of our friends were out playing billiards. As I was giving Natalia and her roommate a ride home, the roommate says, And, did you tell him about the thing? Natalia responded, no, and her roommate pressed her, but she stayed firm. I texted her later to see what was the matter, but she assured me it was nothing. This past week, her roommate called me and asked if we could meet up. She sat me down and said that she thinks my ex-GF is stalking Natalia. I was taken aback but not completely shocked at this accusation, given Melissa's past. She told me that it started out with obvious fake FB profiles sending friend requests and then vile hate messages. Then Natalia was getting calls from random numbers that said they were following up Craigslist escort ads with her name, picture, and number. Roommate knew about the picture situation and immediately suspected Melissa. That was a few months ago. Last month, Natalia and some friends were heading back from the movies, and a guy in Melissa's grad school cohort saw a car parked along Natalia's street and said, "Hey, what's Melissa doing here?" This freaked her out, as she had seen that car parked there several nights a week for the past 3 months. This was the thing she didn't want to mention to me. This week, her growth chamber was contaminated. Apparently, someone let disease-carrying aphids into a few sections of the greenhouse and ruined a few of the grad students' crops/experiments. I'm not a biologist. Sorry, I missed the details. Anyway, it was a pretty big deal for the grad students who needed to restart their experiment, including Natalia, but her PI thought it must have been some undergrad who forgot that you're not supposed to enter the greenhouse after being in the aphid room. Her roommate, who is in the same department as Melissa and Natalia, thinks it was foul play on Melissa's behalf. Apparently, she's been bad-mouthing Natalia ever since we broke up. Obviously, that is a very strong accusation with no real proof, so she hasn't spoken to administration about it. It is really scary to think Melissa would go to such a length to hurt somebody else. It sounded to me like Natalia is being stalked, but she doesn't want me to know. I brought it up with her yesterday, and she confirmed what the roommate said. She dismissed the greenhouse incident, saying she doesn't want to think someone had it out for her. Also, she thought it was unlikely because the risk was so great if it was done on purpose and the person was caught, they would be expelled from the program without a second thought. She did admit to having the feeling of being followed and that she'll be at a grocery store or cafe and think she sees Melissa there too. She thinks she's just paranoid and letting her roommate get to her head, but that this happens more frequently since we've started hanging out. I asked her if she has spoken to Melissa or wanted me to say something, and she said absolutely not. I'm feeling like this is all my fault, and I keep screwing up. If I had left Natalia alone after breaking up with Melissa, this wouldn't be happening to her. I haven't spoken to Melissa since the breakup, only to return the items she kept in my house, and I don't think speaking to her about this would do any good. I wouldn't doubt that Melissa is capable of stalking and/or sabotaging Natalia's work given her history, but I haven't seen anything with my own eyes yet. Is there something I can do before this gets worse? In my last few posts, many people said I had handled things wrong, and I want to make sure I do something right for once. Do I stay out? Do I investigate? Please give me advice and not judgment. Right now, I am worried for my friend. Now on to the next story. Story 8. I was in love with my best friend for 2 years while he clearly wasn't interested. After a mental breakdown in Aditayan, I ghosted him and all my friends. Honestly, this is pretty straightforward. We met about 2 years ago, and I instantly crushed on the guy. I honestly thought our first few nights out were dates, up until the point he went on a rant about a girl he had a crush on after a few beers. At that point, my thought process was pretty much, oi, not dates, got it, and moved on with the intent of friendship. Except, funny thing, turns out he checks all my boxes. I've never gotten along with anyone this well. People are shocked to find out, or, well, not anymore, but up until about a year after we became friends, we haven't known each other for years and years. We have the same humor, like the same games and TV shows, agree on politics, want the same things in life, all well enough to get along, but still with enough differences that we can have conversations about it. We discover bands together, we help each other with work and writing papers. I call him when I'm sad, and we both think it feels weird to not see each other for a week. Problem is, I'm completely head over heels in love with the man, and it is starting to get to the point where I don't know what to do. I thought it would go away, but every time I meet him, it's like I'm falling all over again. My friends have gone from teasing me about it to shooting me pitying looks whenever his name is brought up. My sister wants me to just stop seeing him. I go a week without talking to him and I think I'm starting to get over it, but whenever I see him again, it all comes rushing back. I don't know what to do. It hurts and it's not fun anymore. I've been on dates with some amazing guys who liked me, but my feelings for my friend are stopping me from falling for someone else. It's starting to feel pathetic, and at this point, I see no good option. He's my best friend, the best I've ever had, and I just don't want to lose him. At this point, I think asking him out would achieve that, since it's been so long since we met. I know the only way for me, personally, to get over someone is to stop seeing them, but I don't want to lose my best friend. The finishing touch keeping me on the hook are these looks he gives me. I've had other friends confirm he does this because I was honest to God starting to think I was losing my mind. Whenever we're out in a group at a party or the pub, whenever I look over at him, it seems he's always looking at me, and these eye contacts last way too long to be normal. Like a good 6 seconds of us just looking at each other across the table or the room or the bar, and he does this little smile. I've never seen it on him in any other situation. I don't know what it means. I have no idea why we do this or how it came to be, but it's the final nail in this coffin of hopelessness I'm buried in right now. I don't know if I'm crazy and overinterpreting things, which is very likely, or if I should just give it a shot and ask him out even though it might ruin the friendship, or just stop seeing him, or to just carry on and hope this feeling goes away at some point in the distant future. I'm so frustrated. I want to cry and have cried a lot. I just don't know what to do here. Update. November 13th, 2024. So, hello. I made a post on this looking for advice on how to handle my incredibly painful unrequited love for my best friend. I'd honestly forgotten about this until making a password reset on another account, but as I read through the post, I remember how very comforting and terrifying the responses to my post were, being a more or less unanimous ask him out that scared my ass to death. Sorry that this isn't really a happy update, but I don't know. It felt weird seeing something I wrote in what feels like a different life, and the people who responded seemed so genuinely kind and trying to help. I feel like I weirdly owe some kind of update, especially for that one dear, sweet commenter whose account is now deleted. I so wish I'd have a way to reach out to them because that was one of the most thoughtful comments I think I've ever gotten. And just to recap, with hindsight, I really was in love with this man, and I had been for about 2 years. Like full 9 yards in love. Struggling to breathe when he talked about someone else, but still cheering him on because he deserved happiness levels of in love. If that sounds a bit like obsession to you, then that's because it probably was. The thing about unrequited love, the thing that really sucks about it, is that it's incredibly hard to move on from, but until you do move on, your brain keeps obsessing about it to the point where it can be impossible to get anything done. It had been 2 years of that when I made that post. 2 years of pining and pain and an ever-growing pile of crushed hopes. And I think I was going a little bit insane, constantly swinging between butterflies and love highs when I was with my friend and the crushing feeling of rejection every time he'd say goodbye, and the obsession over things like how long he'd look at me, how long he'd let a hug last, how fast he'd respond to my texts, things which could either make or break my entire day depending on what the answer was. On to the actual update after that primer. About a month and a half or so after I made that post, still trying to hype myself up to actually ask this man out, I accidentally became a head organizer for an event at the university I was studying at for the moment. Long story short, the person managing me was not kind. I was extremely overworked from the event, on top of writing a thesis. I was equally stressed out in my private life due to the whole situation with my best friend, and I ended up going through a pretty severe case of burnout. Add on to everything that I developed an addiction to alcohol to try to handle everything, and was also experiencing what was most likely a drug-induced paranoid psychosis, and I was a mess. I ended up moving back in with my dad in September and spent about a year doing nothing but sleeping, crying, playing Skyrim, and going to rehab and therapy. Start of 2021, I went back to school and slowly recovered. I've been sober since 2020. The paranoia hasn't completely gone away, but it's more manageable. I used to think my landlord listened to me through a radon measurement device, and at least that's over, and I think I've got a work-life balance figured out that helps me not overwork myself or go into free time lethargy because I've got too much time off. It was long and painful, but I did it. If you're wondering where my best friend was in all of this, I honestly don't know. I went back to look at our text messages, and from what I can see, he tried to call me a few times in early September. I didn't respond, and then nothing until around Christmas when he wondered if I wanted to meet up sometime. I said yes and then never followed through. He hasn't texted me since January 4th, 2020. Now, to be clear, I don't blame him for not reaching out more. My non-responding is what killed that friendship. I know because it also killed every other friendship I had at the time. I don't know. Alcohol addiction, deep depression, and crippling paranoia may be a fair explanation to one day stop responding to any of your friends, but I still deeply regret those choices. If I were to make a relationships post today, it would be on how the hell you word an apology after behavior like that 5 years down the road. Sorry, I feel like this is starting to become a journal. I'm gonna stop my reflections there. So, about my love for my best friend. With some years of hindsight and therapy behind me, I don't think I was in love with him. I think I was in love with the idea of him, and I think I was obsessed for sure. But looking back, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I think a part of me really liked the fact that this was a person who so clearly wasn't interested in me. Genuinely, if he was, that would shock me to find out because he spent 2.5 years ignoring the, in hindsight, very obvious attempts I made to deepen the relationship. Some examples include him saying he's waiting for the right person, me responding, "Sometimes I feel like I already have. Do you ever feel like that?" And him going, "Nah, I don't think so." Me following that up with, "Maybe you just don't know, the heart is weird sometimes." And him going, "I'm pretty sure I'd know." One time we talked about why people fall in love, and I genuinely tried to convince him a deep friendship was all you needed, while he insisted that there needed to be a level of sexual attraction as well. I tried to get him to do that 36 questions that will make you fall in love thing with me. I kept trying to find excuses to hold his hand. Rest in peace, my palm reading career. You were nothing but a thinly veiled attempt at finger touching, and him resolutely never going along with it. Ditto, but with hugs, arm touching, and sitting just a little too close whenever we went out so I could hear him better, which he normally responded to by going, "We should go outside so you can hear better if it's too loud in here." Very thoughtful, but very much not what the goal was. One night when we were alone in my apartment after a club event, after a particularly long shared look, I asked him what he was thinking about, and that kind of, I don't want to break the illusion soft voice you put on when you're really close to someone you like. And his response was, "I don't know if I agree that GS's metaphor about blinking makes that much sense, actually." For context, we bickered about that earlier in the night since we just read some article about it in class. I did not expect it to make a comeback at that point. Another night when we were out together and there had been a lot of looks and closely leaned and laughing together, and he pulls me to one side by the hand to talk to me about something, heart racing, only to ask me if I know if one of my friends is single because he thinks she's really cute and might have been looking at him all night. Looking back, at least some of this stuff is sort of funny. I have no idea if he knew or knows now that I was in love with him. I wouldn't be surprised if some of my old friends eventually told him, but of course he's never reached out about it. But yes, I think I kind of liked the security of this person who clearly didn't like me back. Not that I was doing well with the heartache, but there's a certain kind of messed up comfort that comes from pining for someone who doesn't want you back. Like the highs I'd get when I got something that felt like confirmation made up for the lows of crying in my apartment stairway when I got home after a denial. Today, I mostly just feel so bad for him and ashamed of myself, regardless of whether he knew or not, and I'm trying to cling to the fact that he seemed to at least continue wanting to be friends as some indicator that he never felt creeped out or uncomfortable. My behavior was pretty creepy, and in the end, once I did get that distance between us, the feelings went away after some 6 months or so. My therapist recommended not meeting this person again for my own sake, and by early 2020, I wasn't so painfully in love anymore. A while later, I'd end up meeting a guy I clicked with just as much who actually liked me back and showed it. We've been together for almost 3 years now and are talking about starting to try for kids at some point soon. He'd like us to get married first, but is also insisting he wants to be the one to propose, so I'm just walking around waiting for the day. Even if it's not a huge surprise or secret, he just wants to get that moment of going down on one knee, and who am I to deny him? I'm slowly growing old and boring. I'm sober. I go to my boring, stable middle career 9-to-5 job. I save for my retirement and traveling in the summers. I help my dad out on his farm. I crochet little animals for my newborn niece. I come home to a man who plays his silly video games. I play my silly video games. We go for walks, visit the museum, and bicker about whether to get fat on takeout or not. I have some regrets about how my early 20s ended up playing out, but by God, I wouldn't want to go back. Now on to the next story. Story 9. Sil mocked my job by saying their butler earns what I make in a year, so I told her that her rich husband was cheating. They almost divorced, and my in-laws blamed me for ruining their lives. Hi Reddit, a few days ago I said something at a family dinner, and now my sister-in-law and her husband are getting divorced, and my in-laws are blaming me for it. My wife is obviously with me, but I still want to know if I did the right thing or not, according to you guys. So, for context, my wife, 33F, and I, 36M, have been together for 8 years and married for 5. I've always gotten along well with most of her family, apart from her sister. My sister-in-law, let's call her Sophia, 38F, is just not a good person. There is no other way to say it. She has always been really annoying and mean, and I think she's one of those people who just peaked in high school and thought that that's the personality they should stick to for the rest of their lives. I have never liked her personality because, right from the beginning, she has always acted very arrogant, and I guess that's why she has never liked me since I have always maintained a distance from her. She also has a tendency to make underhanded remarks about people or pay them backhanded compliments, and most people ignore it, but sometimes I like to hand it right back to her, and that's what I did at one of our family dinners that my wife and I were hosting last weekend. We had invited everyone from our families over to celebrate a promotion that I had recently received. Since it was a pretty big one, I was being promoted to the position of COO of the company, and it was a huge deal because not only did it come with a huge raise, it was also a pretty prestigious position in the company, and I had worked really hard for it. Everyone in the family knew that ultimately my goal was to become the CEO of the company that I was working in, and I had a pretty good shot at it, so this was a step towards realizing my dream. And that's why I think it was particularly nasty of Sophia to have said what she did. So, before I announced it to everyone else, my wife and I decided to invite our families over and tell them about it first. I didn't really feel inclined to invite Sophia, but since she is a part of the family, we had to invite her unless we wanted to start a feud, which we didn't. At the dinner, when my wife and I finally announced why exactly we had invited all of them and told them about my promotion, everyone was happy and congratulated me, except for Sophia, who just kept sitting in her place with a weird look on her face, not even bothering to look at anyone. I guess everybody noticed it but didn't say anything. Even her husband, let's call him Jacob, 42M, congratulated me heartily, but that was probably because he had no idea what was about to happen in the next couple of minutes. Once everybody had calmed down and returned to their seats, Sophia decided to ask me, now that I have been promoted, how much would I be making? It was a pretty personal question that I didn't think was appropriate for her to ask, especially given our strained relationship. My wife tried to tell me that I didn't have to answer that and tried to laugh off the question to cut the tension because she didn't want to make this dinner awkward, but I decided to answer Sophia, and I told her the amount that I would be making after my promotion. Then Sophia started to giggle, and I thought that was really rude. Before I could stop myself, I ended up asking her why exactly was she laughing, because I personally didn't think there was anything funny about whatever I had said. I shouldn't have done that because it's Sophia. I probably should have known that she definitely would have something horrible to say, and she did. With a very smug look on her face, she told me that it was funny that I was so proud of this promotion because even after that, I would still be getting paid peanuts. She then said that it was cute that we were celebrating this because it really put things into perspective for her, since apparently my annual income was around the same amount of money that her husband paid their butler every year as well. Everybody went silent at that point because I guess everyone realized that a line had been crossed, and even I was shocked that she would say something like this. It's true that Jacob is extremely wealthy, but that's because he is the son of the owner of a really successful chain of gyms. It's unfair to compare his situation to me because I don't have the kind of generational wealth that he does. My parents are ordinary people who had normal jobs, and I'm pretty proud of the fact that I had achieved something like this without any help from family. Besides, my income after my promotion was going to be a pretty decent amount. It was no laughing matter at all, but she just had to make that comparison because she wanted to put me down. It's true that Jacob does have a private household staff who get everything done for them, and they don't even have to lift a finger. I'm pretty sure she was bluffing when she said that their butler makes the same amount as I do. She was laughing while she said it, so I could have just brushed it off as a joke. But I don't know what came over me when I decided to respond to her with the same energy, and I ended up calmly asking her if she was aware of the fact that not only did Jacob pay his butler well, he probably also spent the same kind of money on his mistress too. As soon as I had said those words, nobody knew what to say for a couple of seconds, and then the room erupted. Sophia immediately started screaming at me, accusing me of lying, and said that I had lost my mind and didn't know what I was saying, and Jacob started trying to calm her down. My parents didn't say anything, and neither did my wife, but my in-laws started telling me that I had to take back what I said because it was a little too much. I made it very clear that I was going to do no such thing, and soon enough Jacob was dragging Sophia out of our house because she was screaming at me hysterically. My in-laws followed them, and then it was just me, my parents, and my wife left in the room. We stayed quiet for a couple of minutes, but then my wife told me that I had done the right thing by standing my ground because somebody needed to take her sister down a peg, and she was glad that it was me. My parents also told me that what she had said was completely unnecessary, and she was the one who had started that fight, so she deserved whatever I had said. And for those of you who are wondering, I was not just making stuff up to get on her nerves. It's actually true. Jacob has been cheating on her for the past couple of months, and we have known about it, but we haven't bothered to tell Sophia. It was not to protect Jacob or get back at Sophia. It's just that my wife and I found out about it purely by accident, and we didn't even have any proof of it, so we didn't know how we were even going to approach the topic with her. My wife and I had been having a dinner date at a restaurant that was a little out of town a couple of months ago, and there we saw Jacob canoodling with some other woman whom we didn't recognize. He had done his best to disguise himself by wearing an oversized hoodie as opposed to the kind of stuff that he usually wears so that he wouldn't be so easily recognized by anybody whom he knew, but unfortunately for him, our table was positioned in such a way that we could see his face. The guy had glasses on even inside a restaurant, and we found that weird initially, but once we figured out who he actually was, it made sense. We never confronted him about it because in the beginning we were in shock, and later on it just became too awkward to bring it up with him. And if he had seen us and knew that we had spotted him with some other woman, he never let us realize because he never brought it up with us either. After that day at the restaurant, we met him several times and he behaved perfectly normally with us, not like we knew some secret about him, so I'm guessing that he had either chosen not to confront us, or maybe he had no clue, but either way we knew that there was something going on. For a really long time, my wife and I debated telling Sophia about it because no matter how much she got on our nerves, we felt like it would be wrong and unethical not to let her know. However, we also didn't want to speak to her about something like this without any proof because then if she decided to confront her husband about it, and he started to deny stuff, we wouldn't be able to back ourselves up. And we knew for a fact that Sophia was the kind of person who would love to throw us under the bus and act like we were trying to ruin her marriage if she felt like trusting Jacob. Eventually, my wife and I decided that since we did not have any proof, it would be better for us to just stay out of it and let Sophia find out about it on her own, or wait for Jacob to do the decent thing and come clean to her. The reason that we made the decision was mostly because if Jacob was able to convince her that he wasn't up to anything behind her back, she would definitely try to villainize us, and we didn't want that. But at the party the other day, I just couldn't help myself. The words had come out before I could even think about it, and honestly, I didn't really feel guilty about it in the aftermath of the situation either. I only started questioning what had happened the other day after I learned from my in-laws that Sophia and Jacob had decided to part ways, and apparently Sophia had even moved back in with her parents the day after I blurted out the truth. It's really sad because Sophia and Jacob have been together for much longer than even my wife and I. They have been together for the last 16 years and married for 14. They even have a 13-year-old daughter together. And now that they are getting divorced, it's going to be quite difficult for her as well. All of this is really sad. But what I don't understand is how any of this is my fault, because if they are getting divorced, it's obviously because Jacob decided to cheat on Sophia. All I did was tell her the truth only because she was picking on me and trying to humiliate me. But for some reason, my in-laws have started trying to make me feel guilty for what happened and are holding me responsible for it, which seems a bit unfair. My wife is completely and totally on my side and is even ready to cut her parents off. But before we do that, I just want to make sure that we are doing the right thing, and that's why I'm asking you guys for your opinions. According to my in-laws, do you think that it was wrong for me to bring up something like that in retaliation to what my sister-in-law had said about my income? They are willing to agree that what she said was completely unnecessary and was said purely with the intent of humiliating me. But in spite of that, the least I could have done was think about the consequences of what I was about to say to her. Since there is a child involved here, I should have been a bit more thoughtful and not just blurted out whatever came into my mind without even thinking about the consequences of it just because I wanted to get back at her. They also told me that Sophia had spoken to Jacob, and apparently the affair had ended last month. So he hadn't even been seeing the other woman. It had just been a short-term fling with one of his high school exes and hadn't been anything serious that could actually damage their relationship, which is why he decided to never tell Sophia about it and had even blocked the other woman everywhere so he wouldn't be tempted to go back to her at any point. Jacob was doing everything to stay loyal to her and make it up to her because he felt incredibly guilty about having cheated on her and on top of that, keeping the secret from her. But now that I had told her the truth, he had decided to confess, and it had ruined everything for them because Sophia, regardless of when the affair had ended or how long it had gone on, had decided that she couldn't trust him anymore and couldn't be with him. I don't blame her for that. I think I would have done the same thing in her position, but I do feel kind of sorry for what she's going through now despite her behavior. I knew that she really loved Jacob, and their daughter is going to have to face the consequences of their divorce. It's not going to be easy for any of them because from what I hear, even Jacob was trying to fix things, and while I have no sympathy for cheaters, I'm still taking that into consideration. And it's true that whatever I had said, it had been coming from a place of anger, but I don't think that inherently makes it wrong, if you guys know what I'm trying to say. Like, yeah, I might have said it because I wanted to get back at her, but that doesn't mean I was wrong. However, my in-laws don't agree with that sentiment, and I feel like they want me to apologize to Sophia or maybe try to sort things out with her or something similar, which I'm absolutely unwilling to do. So, ITA for telling my sister-in-law that her husband had been cheating on her because she insulted me? Update 1. Hi. Thanks to everyone who took out the time to comment on my post. I decided to speak to my in-laws and tell them that it was very unfortunate that this kind of information had to come out the way it did. I can't say that I feel sorry about it. It was very obvious that during dinner it was Sophia who was instigating me, and I think it was about time that somebody knocked her down a peg or two. Besides, when even my wife was in agreement with me, I seriously don't think that I did anything wrong. So I reached out to my in-laws this morning, a few days after we last spoke, and I told them that I'm going to stand by what I did, and if they were actually expecting me to reach out to Sophia at some point to talk to her or apologize to her, they could just forget about it. It was a bit unexpected, but when I said that, they totally lost their temper and started screaming at me, saying that I had ruined her life, and the least I could do was say that I was sorry or at least pretend. They were shouting at me at the top of their lungs on the phone and told me that their daughter did not deserve this and that I had no right to do this to her, which was really weird because I hadn't even done anything. If they had to be mad at somebody, I think it should have been the guy who cheated on her and not me. I tried to reason with them and speak with them rationally, but they were just not having it. They just kept yelling at me, so I lost my temper as well. I started shouting at them as well, and I told them that it was beautiful that they were so concerned for their grown-up daughter, but I was not the one ruining her life. Her husband was. Most importantly, if she had learned to keep her mouth shut and be kind to people, none of this would even be happening, and she could continue living in ignorant bliss with Jacob forever while he continued to cheat on her. So maybe they should introspect and think about where they went wrong with raising her. In the end, I told them that I was not going to pretend that I was sorry about any of this because none of this was my fault, and if they felt like it, they could cut me off for this, but it would only be their loss. Then I hung up. My wife and I discussed whatever her parents had said. Of course, she was the most upset and affected by all of this because it's her family that we are talking about, but she's very clear about what she wants. She knows that the way they are acting is unacceptable, and she's told me that she's going to stand by my side and stay no contact with them until they apologize to me wholeheartedly. I count myself really lucky that I have such a supportive wife who is ready to stand by me through thick and thin, even against her own family. It's really a blessing. Anyway, we have decided that we are going to completely cut our parents off until they come to their senses and apologize for acting like this. Update 2. Hi, so it has been 2 weeks since the dinner fiasco, and since then, as I said, Sophia had been living with her parents, but her daughter had stayed with her father, presumably because she had no idea what exactly had gone wrong between them. But last evening, we found out that even their daughter had now moved to stay with Sophia because she had eventually found out from her father what had happened and why her mother was leaving him. We found out about it through Jacob because we have no contact with anybody from that side of the family. My wife and I have strictly no contact with them. Yesterday in the evening, he visited us so that he could speak to me. Obviously, he looked really hassled and exhausted, and the first thing that he said to me was that I shouldn't have brought it up that day. Apparently, he had known all along that we had seen him at the restaurant that day because he had seen us too, but he had tried to play it cool and pretend nothing had happened, and it had worked for a while. He told me that the only reason he had even been having a fling was that he had been having a rough patch with Sophia and got distracted. But as a man, I should have understood what he was going through and kept my mouth shut. He was making it sound like as a guy I owe him some sort of loyalty because of the bro code or something, which was ridiculous because the last thing that a cheater should be preaching about is loyalty. Moreover, we were not even friends at any point. Jacob and I did not have much of a relationship. We would occasionally make small talk with each other at family gatherings, but that was it, so I didn't owe him anything, and I told him that I regretted the fact that I had waited for so long to tell Sophia the truth about him because honestly, we should have done the decent thing and told her about it way earlier, and then she could have decided what she wanted to do. Either way, neither my wife and I were going to pretend that we were sorry for letting Sophia know that he had been cheating on her, and if he was expecting any sort of help from us during the divorce or the custody battle, he could leave that instant because it was not going to happen. He then got really upset and started telling me that in the morning, he had told his daughter about why exactly him and Sophia were fighting right now, and she was so disgusted that she decided to move out within an hour and hasn't spoken to him since then. The way he was saying it, I was pretty sure that he was trying to blame me for it, or at least make me feel guilty because I had torn his family apart or something. But I made it very clear to him that neither had my in-laws succeeded in making me feel bad about any of this, nor was he going to do so. I mean, I do feel bad for them in the sense that these kinds of things shouldn't happen to anybody because it's just upsetting, but they brought it on to themselves, and Jacob of all people has no right to play the victim in this situation. So when he told me that he wanted me to tell my wife to convince Sophia and her daughter to come back to him and not go through with the divorce, I told him that I was going to do no such thing. My wife was not in the room at the time since she had to take an important work call, but after he said that, I called her into the room, told him what he had said, and she told him that she was not going to do any of that. He had created this mess. He could sort it out himself. That's when Jacob started losing it at us as well and started calling us names. And it was a particularly low blow when he said that whatever Sophia had said at dinner the other day wasn't even too far from the truth, which is probably why it had hurt me so much. He called me a loser and said that he would make sure that he used his contacts and undid the promotion that I had just received. So to retaliate, I called him a talentless product of nepotism, and I guess that really got under his skin because he came really close to throwing hands, but I guess he decided against it at the last moment when he heard my wife screaming at him, saying that she would not hesitate and call the cops if he didn't leave. He left while cursing at me, and that was it. I was really worried for a while if he would actually be able to undo the promotion by using his contacts because he is pretty influential, but my wife reassured me that it was unlikely since I had been a great employee and a hard worker, and I was really valued by my bosses. Besides, if in all these years he hadn't even been able to get any of us any promotions for us at work, then it was hardly likely that he would be able to get any of us fired from our jobs. She told me that he just wanted to say something to intimidate me, and that's why he said it without even thinking twice. But the truth was, he was not going to be able to do any of that, and it was an empty threat. I'm still a bit worried though because my promotion is still in the works. Now I'm hoping for the best, and I pray that my wife is right about this. Update 3. So, it has been 2 days since Jacob visited, and thankfully, I have nothing to worry about because today when I went to work, my boss told me that the paperwork and stuff has been finalized and I can begin training for my new position now. So I don't think Jacob will be able to do anything at this point. Just to lay my mind to rest completely, I even spoke to my boss very casually about this because we are actually on good terms as friends, and he told me that I have nothing to worry about since I have an excellent work ethic and I have earned this promotion. Nobody will be able to take this away from me that easily. So that really helped, and now that I know that I'm safe at work, I'll talk about whatever is going on with the rest of the family. My wife has had no contact with all of them, but they have not respected it. Sophia tried to reach out to her a couple of days ago and told her that it was really disheartening that she had decided to take my side instead of hers even though she was her sister. My wife has been ignoring them but hasn't blocked them. But after that message, she decided to block them because the conversation didn't really go well. After receiving that message, my wife decided to reply to her and told her that she was on the side of what was right, and if I was in the wrong here, she wouldn't have taken my side. But Sophia had unrealistic expectations from her and told her that family comes first, and then my wife told her that I am her family. Sophia got mad and started bad-mouthing me. At that point, my wife realized there was no point in speaking to her, and so she blocked her. It's just really disappointing how they're acting right now, trying to pin the blame for the situation on me. I have blocked all of them as well, and I think that we are at the point where even if they apologize, I don't think I will be able to resume having a normal relationship with any of them, not even my parents-in-law. I have spoken to my wife about it, and she understands where it's coming from and has been quite respectful of it. Of course, if she wants to continue having a relationship with them if they apologize, that's completely fine with me because I can't expect her to cut off her family forever, especially if they apologize, but she has told me that she's not going to be forgiving them unless I do, and she's completely fine with following my example in this situation because I am the one who has been treated badly by her family, and honestly, I'm really grateful to her. I don't think that I would have been able to get through all of this without her being my rock. Update 4. Hi everyone. So it has been 2 weeks since my last update, and surprisingly, Sophia and Jacob have decided to get back together. We hadn't had any contact with them ever since my wife and I blocked Sophia and the rest of the family because we just didn't want anything to do with them. We found out about it through a couple of other relatives since they had posted something on social media about their decision to renew their vows. People had reached out to us to ask about this event, but we had to tell them that we knew nothing about it because naturally, even if they decided to make a whole thing out of it, they would not be inviting us. It obviously means that they have decided to sort out their differences and get back together. We have no idea why they came to this conclusion or how. Maybe it was because of their daughter, but whatever, at least there is a solution to their problem now, and they're going to stop bothering us like they were so bent on doing up until 2 weeks back. Most of all, I'm glad that nobody's going to be holding me responsible for anything anymore now that they are back together. My wife and I are still in no contact with all of them and are planning to remain so until they apologize, but I don't think that apology is going to come anytime soon. If it hasn't come this far, it's highly unlikely that they're going to start feeling sorry after this. Anyway, it doesn't really matter to me and my wife because regardless of whether they apologize to us or not, we are happy with our lives at the moment. My work is going great, and my wife is also thinking about quitting her job since she has saved enough money and starting a business of her own. So things are looking up for us right now, and we might even consider moving into a bigger house in a better neighborhood closer to my workplace so I can cut down on the time for the commute and well, also because we have earned this. I do think that my wife really misses her family sometimes, and I've told her that if she wants to get back in touch with them at some point in the future, I wouldn't have an issue with it. I really wouldn't. I understand how families are complicated, but she has told me that she has made her decision, and she's going to stick to it because she can't let her family walk all over us and then get away with it. Things like this make me feel so blessed because I don't know how I got so lucky. Anyway, she and I are really happy and well, that is it. Now on to the next story. Story 10. My brother framed me as a thief for years. I missed birthdays and vacations as punishment. My parents finally caught him on camera, but only took his phone away. I am a 23-year-old male. I am the middle child of my parents, 54 male and 53 female, and I have an older sister, 25, and a younger brother, 19. I've been living away from my family for 5 years with a very bare minimum of contact because, right around when I turned 15, my dad's stuff started disappearing from his room. He has a pocket knife collection filled with different knives that he has collected from across the US, and some of them are pretty decently valuable. Not worth like several grand or anything, but some of these probably fetch for a few hundred. He also has a collection of baseball cards and autographed baseballs. These items would vanish from his room and end up in my room, and each time I got punished for it. Each time was more severe than the last. I was looked at by my entire immediate family as a thief for 3 years, even though I constantly pleaded my innocence to them. I missed out on a few vacations, didn't have a 17th birthday celebration at all, didn't get my driver's license or a car until after I moved out, and I didn't have a job and had no way to save money aside from past birthdays and odd chores around my neighborhood. I remember my dad and mom telling me how much of a disappointment I was, and that they wouldn't be surprised if I ended up in the local news as a robbery suspect or worse. My extended family wasn't much help either and saw me in the same light. It got so bad to the point where I genuinely wondered if I was actually stealing and not remembering it at all, either through some kind of mental struggle or doing it in my sleep or anything. Earlier this week, I got a call from my mom. My dad had noticed that his things started disappearing again without me being there and finally had the bright idea to set up cameras in the hall, where my brother was caught taking stuff and putting them in my sister's old room. Mom told me about that and then said that she and my dad both apologized to me for not believing me and that they would love to have me over for her birthday dinner to catch up. I asked her what her plan for my brother's punishment was, and she got confused. I asked her again, reminded her that I was forced to miss out on a birthday, multiple vacations, and my driver's license at 16. She said my dad took his phone for a week and his video games for a month. I lost it on her and berated them for treating me way worse while I was being framed for being a thief, while the actual thief only had his phone confiscated. I then said I will not be attending any events with him for the future, and I said, "You guys can go EF yourselves." I hung up and blocked her number. I then got a call later from my sister, who told me that while my rage is very much justified, my mother is inconsolable and has locked herself in our parents' bedroom. Comments where OP has replied. Comment 1. I think OP should point out to his sister that the brother was trying to do the same thing to her, to frame her as a thief and have her punished. OP. Which was an even weirder move because I forgot to clarify that she moved out of that house a yearish after I did. Comment 2. What? Sorry, I'm not following. Your brother tried to frame your sister for theft when she wasn't even in the house? OP. Yeah, it was a very dumb and idiotic move on his part. Have no clue what he was thinking. Comment 3. Tell me more about your brother. What was your relationship with him when he was 9 to 11 and you were a teen before everything started? What is he doing now? Is he in college/university? Does he have a job or is he just a moocher? OP. He is in college as far as I know. Our relationship was never bad at all, which shocked me more than anything. Comment 4. I don't understand. I thought your parents took his phone away as a form of punishment. This is something done to a high schooler, a child, a person 18 and under still in high school. P. He lives at home for free as far as I know. It's ridiculous and utter bullshit. Update 1. My sister, who I will call T for simplicity, called me about an hour ago as of the time I'm writing this and apologized for what she told me. Me and her have been very close ever since I moved out, and she has been known to step up and apologize when she is in the wrong. No hard feelings towards her at all. As far as my parents go, my mother had an overnight epiphany, according to T. She ended up kicking my brother, who I will call J, out of the house after they were able to make him admit to doing this for years. Mom told T that he was sent to my granddad's house, where he will be forced to get a job and pay rent, as well as his own tuition now. My dad initially fought with her on this until she made him realize just how badly he was tearing this family apart. My dad then called me, apologizing profusely, telling me I don't ever have to see them again and that they would totally understand it, but they would love the chance to make amends and fix what they damaged. He offered to gift me the amount of money I owed for loans, plus an extra $5,000 for keeps. I told him I will think it over, but it might take me a while. I did accept his apology, but I haven't forgiven either of them yet, and I hung up. My mom doesn't know that me and T have kept in contact, as I live about 2 hours away from my parents and 3+ hours from her. T relayed to me that my mom and my dad were thinking about selling some stuff they own and taking extra shifts at each of their jobs so they can get me a brand new vehicle as a surprise. I don't know how this is going to sound, but I'd rather not take a car or any extra money off of them, as everything that I own so far I earned through my hard work, and B, I feel like just buying your child's affection back is a lazy way to reconcile. As far as the situation goes, I did unblock my mom, but I will not be initiating conversation unless she or my dad texts first. Also, they did make an apology on Facebook to me and scolded my brother for what happened, so at least my extended family knows now. I might update if something else happens, but that's all I got right now. Comments where OP has replied. Comment 1. It's nice that they now know you were framed and that they want to make amends. However, they are not owed forgiveness, and they are not entitled to a relationship with you. If you do choose to give them a chance, start slow. They need to earn back your trust, and that doesn't happen overnight. Take some time to think about what boundaries and expectations you need to put in place to feel comfortable resuming contact with them. For example, after everything your brother has put everyone through, if you don't want to see him or if you don't want them to discuss your life with him, they need to respect that. If they can't respect that boundary, let them know how you will respond. Good luck. P. I doubt I'm gonna reconcile fully. Their apologies feel more or less like they're sorry because they feel guilty more so than they're sorry because they wronged me and want to make it better. My brother is dead to me, though. Nothing he could do could fix this. Comment 2. Accept the money. You are entitled to that, and it's the freaking least they can give you for being such awful parents and for the bad treatments. But don't accept the car because if you accept it, they will try to make you feel guilty for not forgiving them even though they tried to make it up to you with gifts. But if you don't accept anything from them, you won't even give them a chance to try to make you feel guilty for not forgiving them, and they wouldn't have the opportunity to gaslight you. Although, in the end, it is your decision. You can still block them once you obtain the car. You can take it as part of your compensation. Also, haha, look, it's your decision if you want to forgive them and have them back in your life or not. I personally wouldn't do it, but I am very sure of one thing. You don't owe them anything, no forgiveness, no meeting, or anything. They treated you like trash for a long time. No one will blame you if you decide to not forgive them, and the best of all is that you are independent. You can survive without them, so you can tell them to go to hell as much as you want. Just make sure you meditate and think about what you want to do. But please OP, don't forgive them, haha. OP. That's what I'm planning on doing. I'm going to accept the money, but not the car if they actually go through and buy it. It does feel wrong to take $5,000 from them, though. I guess it's just my stupid pride or what. Update 2. I got a call from T. My brother, Jay, got arrested for stealing my grandpa's truck keys and hitting a street light about 2 miles out from their house late last night. We'll update when I get more details as I'm going to call my dad about it. Stay tuned. Update 3. So, my brother has not taken to his new living arrangements well at all. He hasn't gone out to look for work. And yesterday he was caught trying to break into Grandpa's safe, right before he stole the truck. He was going too fast and unintentionally hit the street light. He didn't have any injuries, but the truck is possibly totaled, and my grandparents kicked him out too. He now has no home, and my parents have canceled his college fund and are using it to pay for my grandparents to get a new vehicle. Dad told me that he was going to try to surprise me with a new vehicle, but that idea was out the window, to which I said I appreciate his offer, but I would have declined it anyway because I have my reliable '01 Cherokee. My parents have practically disowned him, and it's also crazy to me as he was never truly rebellious up until this week. I think he may be dealing with some serious mental crisis, and it wouldn't surprise me if his mugshot shows up on my local news. I'm not too well versed on psychology, mechanical engineering degree, so I ask, is there anyone out there with an idea as to why he may be going through this? Update 4. This is my second post and a semi-follow-up to my first one, plus my other posts on my account. For those not in the know, here's a quick recap. I, 23 male, have been slowly reconnecting with my parents, male and female, both 54, after I was framed by my brother, 19 male, for stealing from my dad. Since I began interacting with them more, we have all, including my brother. My parents have undisowned him after I had to vouch for him, saying that running away from your mistakes only makes them worse. Started therapy and I have my debts from school paid off. My mom's birthday dinner was yesterday evening, and I decided to go because they were eating at an expensive restaurant and they offered to pay my way fully. Free food sounded good to me. Those that were there were me, my sister, my brother, my parents, my uncle and his wife, mom's side, both mid-40s, and their twins, 19 male and female. I've always gotten along with their son, but their daughter, who will be called R, has despised me for as long as I can remember. My dad was pulling out his wallet for his ID so he could get a drink, and her said in a mocking manner, "Oh, my dad's name. Hide your wallet. You don't want my name getting in there." I looked at her, red in the face and embarrassed, and said something along the lines of, "Your girl best friends have to say that to every guy in your friend group because of how you get around. She is a known cheater." She got upset and started crying, and my uncle started berating me for talking to his daughter like that and that I was still on thin ice for what I was framed for. I got angry, flipped him off, and left the restaurant. I called my dad, and he said that I have nothing to apologize for, but my mom wants me to because she wants to keep the peace between her side of the family and ours. My uncle texted me demanding an apology, and he put a post out on Instagram about toxic family members. This is where I come to you again. Reddit. Edit. Just a little more context to my background. I was punished and neglected from my mid-teenage years up until I moved out because of what my brother did to me, and it left me with trauma and trust issues from everyone around me. I'm usually level-headed, but everyone knows that what happened is a very sensitive subject. Mini update. Just got off the phone with my aunt, R's mom, and she gave me the most sincere apology that I've received in the past month. She said she has dealt with R and my uncle, don't know how, but I did take down the post, and my uncle did send me a single sorry. Comments where OP has replied. Comment 1. So you were framed for stealing, and now they know that it wasn't you, or did everyone get over it while still thinking it was you? Why vouch for your brother if that whole situation is still lingering? Sounds like he needs to still make amends. Your cousin sounds like a piece of work, and while you sunk to her level, she may have deserved it. Still, you may find a more mature approach serves you better. OP vouched for my brother because they were planning to cut him off like they almost did me and now our therapist thinks he has serious underlying issues. Everyone knows that I am innocent in stealing. Yes. Comment 2. So why is the uncle making a statement that he knows is untrue? Why did your parents not correct him immediately? That would have diffused the situation and kept the peace. OP. Sometimes it feels like they still see me as a thief, and honestly, I'm probably just going to end up reverting back to bare minimum contact. Comment 3. So if your cousin really does know you're innocent, why did she make the remark about the wallet? Are you sure she actually knows the truth? P.S. She knows the truth. My parents made a public apology on Facebook, and my entire family reacted to it, including hers, which was just fantastic. Comment 4. Assuming R really is a cheater, NTA. P. She is. She's cheated twice. One of the dudes was in that friend group. Update 5. First and foremost, my mom actually straight up apologized to me for everything. From not taking my side at dinner, for the way I was treated for most of my teenage to adult life, and she ended up telling my uncle and cousin off. This was during a therapy session, and it happened before any of us said anything to start it. My dad apologized to me as well as to my siblings for everything. My brother is now getting some actual help now, as my parents have admitted to prioritizing me and my sister before this entire ordeal started when I was 15 and the framing began. He apologized to me for everything and was let back into my parents' house, but has to earn his trust back. I don't really care what he has to do. My contact with him is still going to be very limited. Also, in other news, I have a date. We met on Tinder around a little over a week ago, and we clicked really well. She lives around 15 minutes from my place, and we're meeting at a sushi place before I take her to the movies. She wanted to see Killers of the Flower Moon. I'm hoping it goes well. Now on to the next story. Story 11. My girlfriend just gave birth to our first child. I know I'm not the biological father, and I revealed I knew as soon as she gave birth. I'll try to keep this short because I'm planning to go to a bar soon. I found out when she was about 6 months along. The guy, Brian, approached me at my work. "Are you Sarah's boyfriend?" I said, "Yeah," and asked what he wanted. He said he was sorry that he had slept with her and swore he didn't know that she was with someone. I don't believe that. He then pulled out his phone to show the texts between them. They had been sleeping together or linking up for at least a year. Then she found out she was pregnant, and they came to an agreement to just pretend the baby was mine. In return, she wouldn't lose her perfect life, and he wouldn't be responsible for a baby. I knew it was weird. We had been having problems trying for a baby, and all of a sudden, she got pregnant so easily. But he explained that he had been thinking about it and he recently became a Christian. He said that he couldn't live his life knowing that I was living a lie while his child didn't know their real father. So yeah, I told him I'd keep in touch and to not say that he said anything just yet. I've had a lot of time to think, but ultimately, I decided to wait until she gave birth to hurt her in her most vulnerable moment. I'll spare the details, but she went into labor. Baby was born and was taken to the NICU to be monitored for a bit. What should have been a beautiful moment of me holding my baby was the most heartbreaking time of my life. Just knowing he was not mine hurt me. Once she was sewn up and comfortable, I started packing up my stuff to leave. She asked where I was going, and I just told her, "I know I'm not baby's name's father. You can act all shocked, but I know. Just ask Brian to come. I'm positive he'll sign the birth certificate." Then I left. She's been calling my phone over and over, even sending texts as I type this, and has even gotten her sister to call me a few times. It was hard pretending these last few months, but I think I'm satisfied. I feel really, really heartbroken, though. I was planning to propose to her on the day our baby was born. I was going to make her the happiest woman ever. Oh well, I'm gonna go get shit-faced now. Small update. Head hurts, but I'm home and safe. I'll clear up a few things. Brian is going to be in the baby's life if it's his. I don't care what anyone says. I'm sure the kid isn't mine. I'll go get tested. But me and Brian have been in contact since last night, and there isn't a doubt in my mind. For those of you calling me a psychopath or whatever, I don't really care. You'll all forget about this post in a day anyway, while I'll have to live with this a-hole for the rest of my life. What I did wasn't amazing, but I don't care. All I ever did was treat her amazing, and this is how she pays me back. If you think this is fake, go read something else. Doesn't matter to me. Update 1. My girlfriend just gave birth to our first child. I know I'm not the biological father, and I revealed I knew as soon as she gave birth. Hi everyone. I just wanted to start by saying I would have updated sooner, but it takes a bit to get test results back. I've also been working on myself in the time being. Thanks for all the support. I'll cut to the chase. I am not the father, but I already knew that deep down. Brian and the baby are a match, so that pretty much answers that question. He's very excited to be a dad, even despite the circumstances. We've kept in touch this whole time, and he's actually a really great guy, goes to church now, volunteers at shelters, etc. I'm not sure if we'll continue to stay in touch after this, but I wouldn't mind getting a drink with him every once in a while. I hope the kid does great in life. He should with Brian as his dad. As for Sarah, around the time I posted, she had asked Brian to be with her officially since there was nothing to hide. As far as I know, he has not taken her up on that offer and just wants to co-parent for the sake of being in his kid's life. I think that's very smart of him, honestly. Me and her, I've talked as well. We talked about where it all went wrong. She felt as though I wasn't there for her fully and just felt unfulfilled, which I understand. I wasn't always the best guy, but I treated her the best I could. I guess it just wasn't meant to be. She started crying, and I did give her a hug, but I made sure she knew it wasn't because I cared about her. She's offered to stay friends and for me to visit if I want, but I declined. I'm not really interested in keeping up with her and her kid, but I did give her the stuffed animal I was planning to give our kids someday as a gift. She's been staying with her mom and has fully moved out her stuff. She asked me to keep her number, but I blocked her the same day she finished moving out. So it's just me now. I'm not going to lie, my heart has been super heavy, but I think I'll be okay. There's a cute girl at my work, and we've been talking. She's a single mom and has been awesome so far. I explained that I wanted to go slow cause of my recent breakup, and she understands. We've hooked up once or twice, nothing serious yet. I just want to be by myself for now, but I'll likely give her a shot when I'm ready. That's it for now. I'm depressed, but I'm working out now at least. I never want to talk to Sarah and will likely never see her again. It sucks because she was such a big part of my life, but that's gone now. Thanks for all the support. I'll answer questions if you guys have more. Edit. Just wanted to mention that I still don't feel bad about what I did. I can tell she's still hurting, but I definitely think it's deserved. Update 2. I'm the guy who waited until his partner gave birth before telling her I knew the baby wasn't mine. Here's how my life is going. I keep getting DMs asking me to update, so here's one. Been roughly 8 months. Check profile for original story. No, I don't talk to Sarah. Screw Sarah. Haven't seen her. Last I heard, she moved 3 hours away with her mom to be closer to some family. I kept seeing her around town a lot, so I'm beyond grateful she's gone. She would attempt to have conversations with me sometimes in the first month after she gave birth, but that soon stopped. As for Brian, we text occasionally, and we did go out for that beer. He overall seems happy to be a father, but we don't talk about Sarah. I don't keep up much with him anyways. We're both hardworking men with jobs, kids, and lives to live, so it's kind of hard to keep up. I don't think they're together at all, but who knows? Speaking of kids, the woman who was a single mom that I started seeing, we're still together. Her kid is awesome, and I love being her stepdad. TBH. So a big middle finger to those who told me to stop talking to her or that it wasn't going to work. It may seem like we moved fast, but at this point, I don't care. I've never loved anyone more. We communicate properly, hardly fight, just so much fun. I initially was going to cut all contact with her after falling off into a bad drinking habit, but she really kept me grounded. I didn't meet my stepdaughter for a while, but when I did, I knew I couldn't leave. Being a part of this little family has healed me in ways I literally can't fathom. And before anyone says I just used them to deal with the trauma of not having my own kid, that couldn't be farther from the truth. I'm in therapy, I got my shit together, and most days I don't even think about my ex-hell. I even forgot about this damn account. Words cannot describe how much my life has picked up. Thank you, Reddit strangers, for being there in the darkest time in my life. Honestly, it helped. Hoping to propose to my girlfriend sometime in the future. That's it. Bye. Now on to the next story. Story 12. Caught my fiancée cheating with her ex at her bachelorette party after seeing some expensive gift bags. So I exposed everything at our rehearsal dinner. I, 26 male, met my fiancée, 26 female, at a convention I was at for work 3 years ago, and we hit it off instantly. We ended up hooking up that first night, but we exchanged numbers, and we stayed in touch. Not long after, we had to leave each other. We sort of developed this long-distance relationship over time that developed into a monogamous relationship, and after a while, I decided to move over to her city. She had a sick grandparent at the time that she was helping take care of, so it only seemed right that I'd be the one to move. After we lived together for about 6 months, I knew that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. I bought a ring and I proposed not even a week after. After I proposed, she started planning the wedding with her best friend and her sister. Everything between us was perfect. I didn't think I would have had any reason to worry about her behavior. We were dedicated to each other, and I fully trusted her. Being away from all of my friends and family was difficult. I had a pretty tight-knit group of people back home, so I really tried to immerse myself in my work to avoid the lonely feelings I was having without them there. Months pass, and we're getting closer to the wedding date. My fiancé had everything planned, and everything was going very smoothly leading up to the bachelor and bachelorette parties. I was able to find a weekend where all of my good friends and my brother were able to come over and visit for the bachelor party. We rented an Airbnb at a cabin on the lake. We spent the whole weekend drinking beer and fishing. Honestly, I had no desire to go to any clubs or hire any dancers or anything like that. I just wanted to have a weekend with my friends. My fiancée, on the other hand, wanted to have the party of her life. She's been telling me all about what her dream bachelorette party was, and it involved going to Vegas, gambling a little bit, going to shows, male strip clubs, and the works. Again, I trusted her, so I didn't think anything was going to happen. We both went our separate ways for the weekend, and we didn't talk to each other at all. Our friends made sure we had no contact with each other because they insisted that was the point of this party. When the weekend was over, she and I both got back home, and we filled each other in on what happened at the parties. I told her that nothing too exciting really happened. It was more so a relaxing weekend than anything. She kept insisting that I was hiding something, in a joking manner at first, but it quickly took a turn, and it seemed somewhat accusatory. She thought it was abnormal for a man to have a bachelor party without any dancers being present, so she thought I was lying to her. She told me she had a fun time with the girls. They were drunk almost all of the weekend, and she said it was a nice farewell to her single life. A few days had passed, and I was at home working when I heard her laptop dinging. She had been over at her grandmother's house helping her with some cleaning and things like that. I assumed that she must have just left it open by mistake. I'd never been too nosy before or anything like that, but there were a lot of notifications going on. I started to get kind of worried. I thought that maybe it might have been her sending a message to get my attention in case something happened and she couldn't reach me, so I once just went to take a brief look at what was happening. Turns out it was her bachelorette party group chat sending all of the pictures and videos from the weekend. I laughed to myself, thinking I was just being paranoid. However, I did look at the pictures. My alarm bells quickly started to go off when I saw an ex-boyfriend of hers in the pictures. She and I had been open about all of our past relationships, so I knew who he was as soon as I saw him. In fact, he was somebody that she had been with for many years, even longer than she and I were together. Sometimes I wondered if she was still in love with him, but she convinced me that she wasn't. She said he had a new girlfriend and they were just friends. He was even invited to the wedding. In several pictures, they were very close to each other. He had his hand on her lower back and they were dancing together. It seemed pretty intimate, definitely too close for comfort for me. As I kept scrolling, I found a video that another girl had taken. In the background, I could see my fiancé climbing onto the couch where her ex was sitting and straddling him. Other girls were screaming at them and cheering them on as she kissed him. It got hot and heavy real quick. The video ended with them walking off hand in hand to go God only knows where. I felt sick to my stomach. Never in my life had I felt as heartbroken as I did in that moment. I had always been insecure about her ex, and there they were kissing and going off to what I assumed was a bedroom together. Right away, I looked through their messages, and I found more evidence that confirmed they did in fact sleep together. On top of that, I learned that they had unprotected sex. I learned that because in one of the messages following their night together, he told her that he found out he had a venereal disease and that she should get tested. I was extremely thankful that she and I had made an agreement not to sleep together until the night of the wedding. The last time we had been together was a week before the parties, so if she contracted anything from him, I didn't get it. I was angry, I was hurt, and I wanted to get back at her. The wedding was off, but she didn't know that. I screenshotted the messages and saved the videos so I could send them to myself to have as evidence. The rehearsal dinner for our wedding was just around the corner, and she and I had planned on giving little speeches in front of everyone. Another part of that was giving them little gift bags to thank them for their involvement. I printed out about 50 copies of the text messages with pictures of my fiancée and her ex kissing at the bachelorette party. When the day of the rehearsal dinner came around, I slipped them into the goodie bags. My fiancée gave her speech, telling everybody about how much she loves me and how much she couldn't live without me. When it came to my turn to give the speech, I started off by saying that I put a surprise for everybody in the gift bags, and I asked them to take a look. Honestly, I hadn't known that he was going to be there with his girlfriend, but it was a pleasant surprise to see it. The smile on my fiancée's face quickly faded away when she looked at what everyone was pulling out of the bags. On top of that, her ex's new girlfriend poured water all over him and ended things right there. She even yelled at him about how irresponsible he was and how he could have given something to her. Honestly, it made me wonder if that wasn't the first time he cheated on her. After she stormed out of the restaurant, I started my speech. I started off by saying how glad I was to have found out about my fiancé's true nature before we were married. Then I called everything off, telling everybody to return all the gifts they bought or keep them for themselves. I walked away, and my now ex-fiancée was chasing me to try to explain what happened. She tried to lie to me and tell me they didn't sleep together. But in the messages, he clearly said that he might have passed her an STD. So I didn't understand how she thought she was getting away with that lie. I ended up going back to our apartment and packing up the small number of things that I moved there with. I booked a flight back home, and I stayed with my brother for a few weeks until I found my own place. Now she's out of my life for good, and I don't want anything to do with her ever again. Now on to the next story. Story 13. Wife said she hated her ex-FWB but decided to reconnect with him, started spending hours with him. Then she got mad when I threatened to leave. To set the scene, my wife, 41F, and I, 40M, have been together for 15 years and have a child together, 5F. Before we met, she was friends with KC, 44M, whom she also had occasional sex with. She cheated with him on her last boyfriend before the relationship was over, something she mentioned once and forgotten since that she mentioned it to me. The reason she ended their friendship was because the last time they had sex, he didn't pull out and she had to take Plan B. She was mad at him for that and decided to cut him out of her life. That was fairly recently before we met, and when she and I started dating, she was still in the process of clarifying to him that she didn't want anything to do with him anymore. Cut to now. She recently reconnected with him via another friend, and they have been spending an unusual amount of time together. Her friend pulled her into some sort of crypto thing and is currently teaching her and a couple of other friends everything about crypto investments. She wants to learn everything about crypto investing and is attending his boot camps, but in addition to that, she also hangs out with him, taking walks and just being on the phone with him. I made it clear pretty early that I find it a bit weird that going from, I don't want to see him anymore, and after 15 years suddenly spending so much time with him, 0 to 100 right quick. She doesn't hide him, though. She tells me when she hangs out with him or sees him and has so far been open about their interactions. He has 3 kids and is married. Came to a head today when she announced she was going to go out with him again after last weekend, where she said she'd be going for a walk with him at night for an hour and ended up spending at least 4 hours with him, taking a walk and losing track of time. I told her in no unclear terms that she is a grown woman, but that the intensity of their contact is worrying and making me uncomfortable, and that if I felt that this relationship became inappropriate, I would end things with her at the drop of a hat. She knows I have been cheated on in the past and that I have a zero-tolerance policy towards cheating and cheaters. I despise it and I've never done it myself. She's upset now and currently outside in front of our house door talking on the phone. I assume she's talking to him. Meanwhile, I'm looking after our daughter and her friend. Update 1. Not sure how I'm allowed to participate in this conversation, such arbitrary rules on this sub, but we just had another argument before she walked out to meet with him. She put our daughter to bed, and before she left the house, she wanted to talk. She defended him and their friendship and asked why I didn't have a problem with her other exes. I've met 2 of them and they're both stand-up guys, and she does hang out with them occasionally, but I'm not worried about them. I told her this is different, that context matters, and that I really don't understand why she thinks it's appropriate or even acceptable to meet with a former FWB and spend so much time with them. I brought up that she cheated with him, to which she corrected me that it was someone else who she cheated with on her last boyfriend, some guy with a similar name, whatever, and that they only had sex in between relationships. Then she stated that they talked out what happened between them with the unprotected sex, but that I wasn't willing to hear it because I told her I don't want to hear anything about the guy as I don't like him. To this, I got pretty angry, asking her if she is really discussing past sexual encounters. She said, yeah, it had to be talked out. We went in a few circles after, but basically, it was the same stuff. I don't think it's appropriate. I am not comfortable with the intensity of their friendship, and at the moment, I feel she's not being truthful. I am walking out. I also reiterated my point that she's a grown-ass woman and can do what she wants, but she isn't free of the consequences of her actions. In the end, she stood there with tears in her eyes and a look of contempt I've seen before when she's about to lose her, but kept her cool and said she's going off to see him. She tried to kiss me goodbye and I told her no. She then walked towards the door ranting about me being unreasonable, and I told her again that she's a grown-ass woman and that she can do as she pleases, but that she needs to be ready for the consequences of her actions. She slammed the door shut and drove off. I guess we'll see what happens when she comes back. Update 2. January 17th, 2025. Still get DMs here and there, so I thought I'd give everyone some closure on this. Nothing too exciting. So, after she ran off to meet him at some bar, she came home around midnight. I was still up as I was watching something on TV. I looked over at her and she looked unsure. She sat down at the end of the couch where I was sitting and said she's sorry she got so angry. She met with him and they talked about the situation. Apparently, he told her that I am right and that it is weird they're spending so much time with each other, and she called a few friends to talk and get their opinion. They mirrored the same sentiments, that it's hard not to think of this as having at least an emotional affair. To be honest, I was still beyond pissed, and to hear that she only came to realize it when other people told her it was inappropriate, not just me, wasn't helping. She explained that she is learning something from him that is giving her a new lease on life. To her, it's like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to finally start contributing financially and acquiring the skills to generate a bigger income. He is apparently a quite successful day trader and has been teaching her and a group of other people how to day trade in extreme detail. She insisted she show me what she was doing, so I let her chew my ear off for an hour about day trading, looking at her programs, charts, indicators, and all that, ranting about financial markets, etc. She's learned trading with leverage and stuff I have no clue about, but it amazes me that a woman who is too ADHD to read boring government forms and gets overwhelmed with simple adult stuff like communicating with municipalities or banks and hates math is diving headfirst into something as complex as crypto day trading. Still, she seems surprisingly knowledgeable about all this, and knowing how long it takes her to grasp things she's not interested in, I was impressed. And she was still defiant about the whole spending an appropriate amount of time stuff. I told her she needs to cool it with the contact, but I won't stand in her way learning something that she feels is a major opportunity for her. We agreed on ground rules. No evenings or weekends, no phone calls past 6 p.m., and no one-on-one meetings, only group settings. She's been stretching these rules every now and then, but largely kept to them. When she needed to bend them, she speaks to me beforehand and gives me ample heads up, but hides her resentment of having to follow these rules. Still, she seems to want to keep the peace for now and is being proactive. Things have cooled down to a degree where I don't get angry anymore anytime she mentions him. Anyway, other than that, she now thinks she's a pro and a future millionaire and constantly talks about trading. It's been bumpy for other reasons outside of this weird friendship. Her trading talk is annoying and I still think she's got a little crush on her big trader hero. I've grown a bit distant in the last couple months because this whole situation emotionally drained me, but we are keeping things going. I know this is not the dramatic cheating and infidelity story some people were expecting. It's a pretty severe rough patch in an average, normal people relationship. She's not cheating on me physically. I think she might have a crush, which happens in a long-term relationship, and I have other to deal with at the moment that I just can't expand the energy to obsess over this every day for hours or fight this into a dramatic my way or the highway conclusion. I don't want to blow our marriage up just to satisfy other people's personal convictions on how a relationship should be like. It's right now, but it's my instinct tells me it's a passing fancy, and if things go sideways, still, I can always walk out. This will be my last and only update. Now on to the next story. Story 14. Daughter wanted to live with her deadbeat bio mom who abandoned her, so I cut off her college fund. A week later, she discovered her mom stole $10,000 from her. Hello everyone. I'm a single dad to my 18-year-old daughter, Emma. Her bio mom left us when she was young, and I've raised her with the help of my wife, who has been a wonderful mother figure. Recently, Emma started reconnecting with her bio mom, and I initially supported this, hoping it would be a positive experience. However, it quickly became apparent that her bio mom hadn't changed. Emma began making excuses for her and started exhibiting increasingly hostile behavior toward my wife. She would say things like, "Maybe I'll just move in with my mom and leave you both behind," and "You're not my real mom. Anyway, so what do you care?" It escalated to threats where she implied she would ruin our lives if we tried to stop her from pursuing this relationship. During a heated argument, Emma expressed her desire to move in with her bio mom. This was the break point for me. Feeling that I needed to set boundaries, I decided to cut off her college fund and told her she had to leave our home. Since then, my family has been vocal about their disapproval. They believe I should have been more understanding and that I overreacted. Some even argue that I'm pushing her further away and harming our relationship permanently. They think I should have tried harder to support her rather than resorting to such drastic measures. Am I the a-hole for taking this step? Or was I justified in cutting her off? Update 1. Thanks to everyone who commented on my original post. I didn't expect to have an update so quickly, but a lot has happened in just the past few hours. About 5 hours after I posted, I got a message from Emma asking if we could meet up. She suggested a nearby coffee shop, and although I was unsure of what to expect, I agreed to meet her. When I arrived, I could tell right away that something was different. Emma looked exhausted and stressed, not at all like the confident person who left our home. She told me that her time with her bio mom had been a disaster. Not only had her mom treated her coldly, but she also demanded an exorbitant amount of money for rent, far more than Emma could afford. It became clear to Emma that her mom wasn't interested in having a real relationship with her, just in using her for financial gain. Emma was visibly upset as she apologized for the way she had treated me and my wife. She admitted that she'd made a huge mistake and asked if she could come back home. It was obvious she was genuinely remorseful, and she said she realized now how much we had done for her. I told her that I'm willing to work on rebuilding our relationship, but it's going to take time and effort on both sides. We discussed setting some boundaries and working through the issues that led to all of this in the first place. She agreed, and we left the coffee shop with a plan to move forward one step at a time. It's not going to be an easy road, but I'm hopeful that we can heal from this and come out stronger on the other side. I'm still processing everything, but I'm relieved that Emma wants to make things right. Update 2. Hey everyone, I've got another update, and things have gotten even more intense since my last post. A day after Emma and I reconciled, her bio mom showed up at our house. I didn't expect her to come here, but she was furious, screaming about how I had taken her daughter away and how I was trying to turn Emma against her. She was completely out of control, and it quickly became clear that she wasn't going to leave peacefully. I tried to calm her down, but nothing worked, so I had no choice but to call the cops. When the police arrived, Emma was visibly shaken as they escorted her mom away. Emma asked me to press charges. She was done with her mom's manipulations and wanted to protect herself from any further harm. While we were dealing with the fallout, Emma mentioned that her bio mom had access to her credit card. We decided to check her account, and that's when we discovered something shocking. Her mom had taken out $10,000 without Emma's knowledge. We were both stunned and heartbroken. After reporting the theft to the police, we started doing some digging of our own. We found out that Emma's bio mom was drowning in debt. She'd been using Emma as a financial lifeline, which explained the outrageous demands for rent and the recent theft. She was desperate and willing to do anything to get her hands on more money. We provided all the evidence to the police, and they're now investigating her for fraud. Emma is devastated but also relieved that the truth is coming to light. We're working with the bank to try to recover the stolen money, and I've hired a lawyer to help us navigate the legal process. This whole situation has been incredibly tough on Emma, but she's been strong through it all. We're focusing on moving forward and rebuilding trust. I'm grateful that she came back home when she did, because who knows how much worse things could have gotten if she'd stayed with her mom any longer. It's going to take time to heal from all of this, but we're on the right path now. Emma knows she has our full support, and we're committed to helping her get through this. I'm just glad we caught on to what was happening before it was too late. Comments where OP has replied on his wife's role in his daughter's life as a stepmom/maternal figure. OP, my wife has been her maternal figure ever since she was 3, so she has a say in it, and also the bio mom has never raised a finger in raising. I raised her and always gave her what she wanted to a certain extent, though. Comment 1. You are in your feelings and not being understanding and a parent. You are upset because she's rejecting your wife. You are disregarding her feelings when she says you loved your wife more. Instead of asking, why does she feel like that? You may think your wife is this great person, but she may not be to your daughter. You're protecting your wife because your daughter is rejecting her. Allow her space to navigate that relationship with her mom without you punishing her. OP. I have seen firsthand how my wife treats my daughter, to be exact. She did all the work for my daughter, as my wife is sterile, and would help in holiday homework, maths, and even hug her. And my daughter would always praise her when I asked her if she had any problems with her. Comment 2. Yes, you are being petty. She's an adult now, and she wants to establish a relationship with her mom. For you to punish her for choices that have nothing to do with her college education is incredibly irresponsible and makes you just as bad as her mom. Her mom abandoned her and never looked back until she was 18. Obviously, I am compelled. Comment 3. Just let her figure out that her bio mom is a piece of shit. That's the best way to go about it. Update 3. September 24th, 2024. Hey everyone, I've got another update, and this one has been extremely difficult for our family. After we pressed charges and discovered the theft of $10,000 from Emma's credit card, her bio mom started harassing us nonstop. It started with constant phone calls and text messages, both to me and Emma, begging, demanding, and threatening us to drop the lawsuit. She even began showing up at our workplaces. At my office, she caused a scene, screaming at the receptionist to let her in, calling me a thief and claiming I was ruining her life. Emma's job wasn't spared either. Her bio mom went there too, embarrassing her in front of her coworkers and even threatening to expose personal details about our family if we didn't drop the charges. We tried to block her out, but things came to a head when she showed up at our house again. This time she was even more out of control. She started screaming and calling my wife all kinds of vile names, including a nasty shit, claiming she had stolen Emma from her. We tried to get her to leave, but she refused, and then it happened. She physically attacked my wife. She shoved her into a wall and started hitting and scratching her. Emma and I were in complete shock. My wife was just trying to defend herself, but her bio mom kept coming at her. Seeing my wife terrified and hurt was my breaking point. I immediately called the cops. When the police arrived, they arrested her for assault. My wife is now traumatized from the incident. She's been struggling with anxiety and can't sleep well knowing that she was physically attacked in her own home. She's seeing a therapist to try to deal with the emotional scars left from this nightmare. Emma is devastated too. She never imagined her bio mom would go this far, and seeing her attack my wife has left her shaken. We're doing everything we can to support each other, but the impact has been immense. Now, with her bio mom in custody and facing multiple charges including assault and harassment, we're hoping we can finally find some peace. It's hard to believe how far this situation has escalated, but I'm glad that at least for now, we're safe from further harassment. We'll be taking legal steps to ensure a restraining order is in place moving forward. This has been a painful chapter for my family, but we're determined to get through it together. Thank you again for all your support during this time. It's been a lifeline for us. Now on to the next story. Story 15. Husband's estranged teenage daughter was abused and abandoned. He wanted to reject her too, but our fight turned into a plan. Now we're getting her college fund. So, my husband and I are currently cooling down from a fight, and he called me a few things, including a beach. Everything is a bit of a mess right now, so emotions are running high, but I really need a sanity check and maybe some fresh arguments because I feel like we are going in circles. Long story long, my husband had a daughter when he was in his early 20s with his ex-girlfriend. They were not good for each other, a lot of fighting and just emotional abuse, so they split just before the child was born. He has been very open about this in our relationship and how he regrets not taking more care to not get her pregnant because they were young and immature and stupid. He never really got to build a relationship with his daughter. Her mother would just keep the kid from him and made it clear that she did not want him in their life. He has paid child support the whole way through, but it has been uphill for our entire relationship. When we met, my husband had matured greatly and was eventually ready to start a family. So I have seen a bit from the sideline. When our first child was born, his ex went for more child support because, if he can afford a new kid, he can afford to pay up. She is always being super nasty in any conversation they might have, and she taught their daughter the same thing. He has tried to at least get a phone call for Christmas, and last year his daughter said some really awful things on that call, calling him deadbeat and other awful things, telling him she hates him and never wants to get to know him. She is 13 now, so I know that her mother is still influencing her a lot, but she is also reaching an age where he can't just say that she doesn't know what she is saying or how hurtful it is. So my husband has basically given up trying. None of them want him to try, so he resigned to that. A few days ago, he got a call. The core of it is that his daughter told a teacher that she was being molested at home. CPS showed up, and her mother split, disappearing. They want her to come live with us. My husband wanted to decline. He has no relationship with this child. She seems to hate his guts. We have younger children and honestly, no experience dealing with a trauma like that. He believes she would be better off with a foster family who knows what they are dealing with. I told him that there is no way this kid got abused, abandoned, and then getting rejected from the only family she has. We are taking her in and we will figure out the rest. That poor kid needs some stability, not getting tossed around in the system. Currently, we are not in agreement, and I know that he has the last word since I'm just his partner and not related to this girl. Am I being unreasonable in thinking this is a huge red flag and that he needs to step up to be a father for her, too? Edit. Okay, this has been a bit overwhelming to come back to, but I'll try to clear up a few things. 1. I'm aware I have no legal say in the matter, but my husband and I are a team and a family, so my opinion matters to him. 2. Neither of us have experience with the foster system, so we are really just going off what we think we know. I want to thank everyone who has been able to elaborate a bit more on this. 3. Yes, my husband was a deadbeat dad in the beginning. Later on, he's been able to see that they were a really bad match, but that he should probably have tried harder. Once visits became an option, he tried, but she would forget and not be home or say it wasn't the date they agreed on and stuff like that. Maybe he could have gone through court, but he just gave up, really. Hindsight is 20/20, but it doesn't change the fact of the now, unfortunately. Update 1. We sat down to have a talk about why the discussion had gone off the rails, not touching the subject yet, but just why we ended up in a screaming match. He told me that he was completely overwhelmed by this and was in a panic. According to him, the CPS person had made it sound like he could take her in or she would go into a system that spits out drug-addicted prostitutes. As one comment colorfully put it, he feels really guilty for letting this happen to his kid, even if she hates his guts. He feels like he should have done something to prevent this. I guess I was too focused on how bad his daughter might be off right now to truly see that he was hurting just as bad. Right now, we've agreed to talk about it again in the morning in a more calm setting and try to get some more facts about what can be done. It's like 2 a.m. and I'm exhausted, but we have both called off work tomorrow so we can take the time we need. I hope there is a positive update in the near future. Update 2, September 5th, 2024. Things are pretty hectic right now, but a lot of people were kind enough to take time out of their day to offer advice and their own experiences, and I want to say thank you for that. I'm not going into details. There is a lot more going on that I'm sharing here, so I can assure you that divorce is nowhere near on the table for us. We have had several tough talks in the last few days, but once we got past the worst panic, we were a lot more on the same page than we thought. My husband has agreed to take responsibility for his daughter and is looking into an emergency custody of her. We are not trying to play family, as some suggested. He is going to take legal charge of her and keep her out of the system. She will not be living with us right now. We have contacted an inpatient therapy clinic that can take her in to start the healing process. My husband is taking leave from work and leasing a second car so he can be there as much as needed/possible. He knows she might never consider him her father or even family, but from now on, we will be her support system. She won't have to depend on a poor, overworked CPS contact, random legal guardians, homes changing, etc. If she needs therapy, we will get it for her. If she needs legal counsel, we will get it for her. If she needs the system, we will help her navigate it. If she wants to live with a foster family, we will support that. We will make it clear that our support is not conditioned on her playing family with us. She never has to set foot in our home if she chooses not to. We know that she might never appreciate any of it, but that is okay, too. We have some savings we can take from, and we are setting up a college fund for her as well. It will not make her rich, but we hope to be able to cover at least some of it when the time comes. We're starting family therapy as well to start talking to our kids about the fact that they have a sister and that dad will be gone a lot more for a while. My husband will be starting therapy as well to work on his guilt and hurt from this whole situation. Comments where OP has replied, OP on her husband's emotional distress. People can feel emotional distress that can cause them to lash out for a while before they are able to calm down and think more rationally about their situation. Comment 1. Your approach demonstrates a deep commitment to doing what's best for your husband's daughter and your family. The focus on support, therapy, and respect for her autonomy are all vital components of navigating this challenging situation. OP. I'll admit the comments on the first thread were hard to read, but it did make me see that I was too naive. I have no doubt it is going to be hard, but right now we have a plan, some sort of direction for this. Most of it is theoretical at this point, but I hope we can make it work. Comment 2. This sounds like your husband is stepping up and being a responsible father despite the difficult circumstances. Kudos to him for taking on this challenge, and I hope it all works out for the best. Good luck to your family. We have reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us your thoughts about the stories in the comments section. Thank you and see you in the next video.